Awesome talk, awesome talk. We got some awesome talk today. Awesome talk, oh, awesome talk. You all like the way we talk. It's awesome, awesome talk, oh, awesome talk. You like the way we awesome talk. It's awesome talk, fucking awesome talk. You like the way we talk. It's fucking awesome. Ooh, yeah.
Like, I don't know if something is coming out of my headphones or out of my computer. I don't know how I can't know the difference.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? We're live. Awesome Talk Quarantine Edition number 31 on June 11th, 2021. Tonight we have a great show for you. Tonight, Rob, do you want to introduce our guest tonight?
Rob had to go for a second.
Oh, Rob went away? Okay, well, when Rob comes back, Rob, I'll let Rob do it. I hear a lot of sounds. Oh, it's Michael Johnstone.
Who the fuck is that?
Stones is here. That's what it is. Stones, we still can't fucking see you, dude.
I don't know what to say, man. We were supposed to resolve this problem like a while ago, and then it never came through. So
yeah, it's not resolved. It's not resolved. So I want to tell you guys the stupid ass conversation that I had with Rob earlier, really quick, if you don't mind. So he texted me, "Can you text Skype me?" And my response was, like, just type words at you all night. And then he responded and said, "I meant test Skype." That was my response. Like, text the show to you all night. Like a fucking idiot.
I mean, that would be pretty annoying.
Yeah. I'd be like, everybody's got to hold on a minute. I got to text all this to Rob. Hold on about your critique on Joe Biden. I have to send all this to Rob. What a ridiculous start. So we do have a great guest for you tonight, but like I said, I'm gonna wait for Rob to come here and introduce him because this is Rob's guest. Rob brought him in. The guy seems awesome, so I'm gonna let him get here and then he's gonna do that. But I did want to start tonight's conversation with something a little bit more serious than usual. I wanted to talk about the new He-Man with you guys.
A little more serious, He-Man.
A little more serious than you. I mean, let's be honest, man. We talk constantly about COVID and politics, and I don't mind if the conversation goes that way. But there's so much other fun shit in the world that we could focus on for a little while, so we don't have to fucking focus on that shit that's destroying my entire life.
Very true.
So, I wanted to talk about the He-Man. Mike Pepe in the chat says we need a stenographer for Rob. But
could you imagine hiring an actual stenographer for this job and how bizarre it would be from their perspective, having to type this whole, and they're like typing in the comments too, like typing the comments out. Dude, the new He-Man casting is like a Dreamcast, like an actual Dreamcast, not like the console.
I love Dreamcast.
See, I knew you were going to say something about that.
No, that's bullshit because Pat's not a console guy.
I used to be.
Yeah, but that's an old console. It's different, Rick.
Yeah,
The GameCube is my favorite console, and you know.
GameCube was a good one.
Who's the cast though?
Fucking Mark Hamill as Skeletor. That's number one. Like, Kevin Conroy is fucking Merman. He's the dude who played Batman he was the voice of Batman. He Lena Headey, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I know that people know her from Game of Thrones. I only know her as being Sarah Connor from Sarah Connor Chronicles, and that's all I care about. She's Evil Lynn.
Oh.
Like, dude, there's the entire cast is like amazingly good. Sarah Michelle Gellar is playing Tila, which I was like, man, what a weird choice. And Alicia Silverstone is the queen, which is another weird, semi-weird choice. Henry Rollins is Triclops.
Of course he is. Of course Henry Rollins is fucking Triclops. That is perfect. Man, what a great cast. Like, this... Like
and Kevin Michael Richardson, he plays my second favorite Joker. He voices the Joker on the Batman series, and he plays Beastman in this.
Who's Panthro?
Panthro? Isn't he from Thundercats?
Yeah.
Wow. Wrong name. Sorry.
Face crack.
Yeah.
Cringer is played by Stephen Root, and I'm not sure what he's done.
I wish Cringer was played by Bobcat Goldthwait.
Wait, let's see what he's done, because maybe it's he was in oh my god! Wait, that's who that is? I'm not positive, but what the fuck is the guy's name from Office Space with the fucking stapler? I think that's who he is. And he was also in Dodgeball.
Yes.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. God, Dodgeball is one of the most underrated comedies of all time, by the way. Maybe we'll come back to that, but...
Oh my god, yes.
Right?
Michelle.
Dodgeball is a home run from the first minute to the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
Rip Torn, that's one of Rip Torn's greatest roles he ever played. Patches O'Houlihan.
Oh yeah.
And like that, it comes from a time. There was a time in the mid 2000s. Sorry, can you read, Mike? In the mid 2000s, where there was like this like spate of like really amazing comedies that came out, and Dodgeball was one of them. It was like Dodgeball and Grandma's Boy and Tropic Thunder and Tropic Thunder, right? And
that was a good one too.
Mike Pepe
I
just
saw something now that said all those movies were trash, and we were all deluded into thinking they were funny.
Yeah. You see what I mean? No, they weren't. They were fucking. You know how badly I want there to be a Grandma's Boy too. Right?
That would be good.
Great would that be? They just did an animated short of Dante and what's his name, Seth Rogen's character, like sitting together, like smoking weed together and just having a conversation. And I was like, dude, you could do animated shorts from this show forever, and it would always be fucking amazing. Always be fucking amazing. But why? Why did they think we were deluded? Like, what? And who's saying? Is that Gen Z saying that, or?
I think so. I feel like there's like a lot of like. There's like a love-hate relationship with the early 2000s. Like a lot of the comedy, people are like, oh, well, it wasn't like funny, it wasn't like complex humor. It's like more like fart jokes and like, stuff like that.
Hold on. If you do not understand why Tropic Thunder isn't complex humor, I don't know how to help you.
Exactly my point. That movie was hilarious. And it's so smart.
Think about this for just a second, right? Like you have... I know we talk about Tropic Thunder sometimes, but this is like a whole different level. Like, what Robert Downey Jr. did, he wasn't wearing blackface. The whole role was about mocking Hollywood for thinking that it's okay to do that.
Yep.
And they were able to do it in such a way where you still fucking laugh hysterically through the whole entire thing. Because, I mean... Because he's got an actual black actor next to him the whole fucking time. just like
oh my God,
angry with him the whole time. And it's like, dude, like, how do you not understand the complexity of that? Like, that was that movie was so deep in the dirt of Hollywood that Tom Cruise actually got shit for that role because that role was based off of a real Hollywood fucking executive.
They were supposed to make a follow-up movie with just his character, but they never did.
I think this whole movement against the arts of yesteryear, the frustrating part. Like I read an article recently, I forwarded it to you, Rick, about Married with Children, how terrible of a show it was and how sexist and misogynistic. And it's like that show was never to emulate human behavior. It was never there to be an example of how you're supposed to be in
Right.
society.
Right.
It was mocking people for being that way. Like, you know,
that's right.
so like
it was also meant to capture like the real feelings, like the real feelings of what it meant to be an American at the time, and it was shitty.
Yeah.
Right, and that was the whole point of the show. And then so it's like now it's like, all right, it's 30 years later, whatever, and you're gonna look back on it and be like, oh, this show should be canceled because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, no, you're now you're actually canceling satire. You're not canceling that comedy anymore. You're canceling satire.
Well, I was talking a few weeks ago about how Generation Z kind of has this amazing way of like digging through something and finding the flaw in it and then like destroying it. And in a way, I almost appreciate the level at which they're able to do that. But in another way, I feel like oftentimes, and I mean, it's a generalization to say Gen Z, but you know what I mean. But like oftentimes it's a little bit misguided if you don't understand the context of your recent history. Like a lot of those things that get attacked were actually considered at the time to be liberal thinking. They were actually...
The only thing about it that bothers me, though, is that, like, whenever conversations like this happen, where the opinion is usually like, well, the reason why they're so mad is that they don't understand it. And if they understood it, they would feel differently about it. And it's kind of like, I mean, I feel like it kind of like gaslights people. Okay. Like for example, Married with Children is ridiculously heavy on non-stop making fun of overweight women. It is constant. And I feel like if an overweight woman was like, wow, this is really offensive and really fucked up, and you were like, you just don't understand how deep it is. Like, I don't feel like you have a leg to stand on. If she's fucking offended,
whoa. I don't mean to say that you don't understand it in that way. What I'm saying is you don't understand what step we were in at the time.
Well, yeah, of course.
And it's
we're looking
also,
at
again,
things through a decades and decades later context. But to be fair, even in the fucking 90s, it was still fucked up.
Yeah, but these people.
Oh, definitely. But I would also argue that same comedy is what led me to arrive at a point today where I go, yeah, we would never do that.
Well, but also,
and that's very difficult to explain to people. Like that's impossible to. It's impossible to explain why Andrew Dice Clay helped me become a more liberal thinker. Like it's impossible for me to explain that in a way that, because his comedy is obviously sexist, trash. Like, but it's so over the top that it's ridiculous. So like, there's something that I learned from that was positive in my life that leads me to not do it now, and it's very difficult to explain.
Two things about Married with Children. One, yes, they in the article it points out all the times that they made fat references, and it's not as much as you're portraying it to be, Sarah. But again, my point with those characters were the whole point of that show was to look down on their behavior, not to look up to these people, not to emulate them, not to have a source of pride or want to be like them.
We were laughing at scumbags.
Right.
That's what we were doing. We were laughing at the idiocy. Like nobody wants to be Al Bundy. Like that's the opposite of who you want to be. But you laugh at him because you realize that his life's in the toilet and this is his perception of the world. So if there's anything about, that sort of culture where we go back and we dig into those things, it's like, no, maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't entirely agree. Maybe I do think there's something that people are missing. I also think that some of those things represent a time that needs to be. We need to remember how we got here. To an extent. I'm sorry, Kristen, go ahead.
No, it's all good. I was just going to say it's weird, like, talking about that and then thinking about, like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and watching that show. And if you had no idea the nuances behind it, you would think that show is the most offensive show on television.
I think, and I also think that if you created the right BuzzFeed video, you could take that show and demonize the fucking holy shit out of it and make it look terrible. But at the same time, you know, I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I don't want to downplay what Sarah's saying either. They did make fun of overweight women in that show all the time, but is it because it was low-hanging fruit, or are we laughing at Al Bundy because Al Bundy is so fucking dumb that he'll take low-hanging fruit like that all the time? You know what I mean? Like, are we laughing at the fact that he's an asshole who laughs at that, or are we laughing with him?
I think it would be ridiculous to say that nobody was laughing with him. Of course there were people laughing with him, and there were probably like kids that were encouraged to go out and say the shit that he said. And I'm not like, oh, cancel. Like, I don't like, cancel is the wrong word. It's like repercussion culture. People were like, oh, this is off-putting. I don't want to put my time and money into this. It's not fucking canceled because like there was some fucking mass hysteria that went on. People just decided to tune out. They don't want to fucking listen to that. They don't want to hear that. Like, and like, I feel like it like demonizes people's choices, but yet they're the same people that demonize quote unquote cancel culture are the most pro-capitalist people in the world. This is capitalism.
It was demonizing people's choices. We didn't, before Married with Children, there was never a comedic light shined on the fast food obesity culture that we were becoming as a nation. And that, you know, those were the early years of pointing that out. It wasn't, you know, it took me a long time through reading and starting to know that there's people who are obese, that there's something in their brain that can't turn, you know, there's legitimately something in their brain that they're always hungry, or something in their body that can't adapt. Sure. But I don't think that was the demographic that Married with Children was going after. I think as a country, we were just becoming fat people, and they were targeting it. That's okay. At least my own personal.
Yeah, but dude, but then, let's be honest, they were.
And the information age was hardly the information age.
He was targeting overweight women because he treated them as inherently unattractive. He wasn't worried about an addiction of food. Hold on.
But Al Bundy was also an ex-high school football player whose glory days was one game he played where he scored 4 touchdowns in one game. And a guy like him who would become a shoe salesman would say those things. That's how he would think. And we don't want to emulate him. So this is where I come to my like moral crossroads, where it's like, on the one hand, I agree with you completely, Sarah, that it's fucked up, but on the other hand, I go, but if you're going to create Al Bundy as a fictional character, how would Al Bundy act? He would act like this. And what does that say about our society? What are we laughing at exactly? I can't believe we're sitting here talking about the depths of Married with Children. Like, never in my life when I was a kid, like in the 80s and early 90s watching Married with Children, did I ever think to myself I'd be wondering about the complexities of Al Bundy's character. But it's important. It's important because it's part of our cultural zeitgeist.
And the other thing, you know, that those were the days that was before the information age, that was before the internet. You know, that information that's very available now about different diverse groups of people that exist and things that could be considered offensive in those groups of people. That type of technology, that type of interaction, cultural, societal interaction with each other was completely absent. So, you know, so now you're holding these Hollywood execs to a standard where they were supposed to research these things to a degree where they were supposed to know better. And I don't think that they gave a shit. That, you know, there was a small group of people that were funding these.
Right. How much do you fault people for responding to the environment they're in? And how do you convince a generation with a lot of power and a lot of influence that these things didn't all lead to bad things, or like we weren't there, you just don't. God, it sucks to say shit like that though. It really sucks to say you weren't there, but like I think about that all the time with like music, and then I remember people older than me saying that with music, and it's like, it's so difficult to define the nuances of a culture when they're not norms anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so difficult.
Yeah, it's like an outsider looking in. You can't understand the experience unless you actually experienced it.
Right.
You're just judging it based on
you're right.
That you've
You're
seen.
judging it based on the bullet points you have in the paper in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's it's just weird because like I find myself in a position where I can listen to everything, like all the criticisms about Married with Children, Stones and Sarah, like, and I agree with them. And I go, yeah, that's fucked up. But at the same time, I also watch old episodes of Married with Children and I laugh my ass off in a way because I can understand the comedy of the time. But at the same time, I'd never do that now myself. So
I wasn't even allowed to watch the show. My parents were like, it's a bad influence. You can't watch that.
Huh.
Me too.
Wow.
Isn't that comparable to like All in the Family?
Okay, so great point. So Alexis just said in the chat, just showed my kids an episode of All in the Family, and they were floored. This was on primetime TV. Nothing they ever saw in their lifetime on TV. And I just want to talk about that for a minute, too, because if you know anything about All in the Family, you know that Archie Bunker was a racist, homophobic piece of shit. But if you pay attention to the history...
Eric Clapton, too.
It's like the original Al Bundy.
Right, exactly, 100%. But here's the other thing. There's probably, culturally speaking, in terms of like network TV and what's important to the the culture of society, probably one of the episodes that is most important in all of sitcom TV is when All in the Family did a crossover with the Jeffersons. And you had that moment with Archie Bunker and George Jefferson sitting together at a bar having a conversation. And if you go back and you watch that and you think about the year that was created and how important that was to what was going on racially, it was so amazingly socially aware that you have to kind of wonder if the writers in the first place maybe weren't more socially aware than they're getting credit for.
I honestly think that they are. I feel like shows like All in the Family, Married with Children, even in some cases, Home Improvement had some issues with that stuff, with the chick that was like Pamela Anderson was like the tool girl and all that stuff. I think the writers are absolutely aware. I think they're playing to an actual demographic, and that they feel as though that humor is humorous and really nothing more. I don't think that there's malicious intent in some of those shows, and I think that the problem with it is that as they get older, they don't age well. And when you get to that point, I think one of the things I have to teach in history is that in a time and place. I remember about 5 years ago, they had tried to take the name of Woodrow Wilson off of Wilson Hall at Monmouth University. That's the hall where Annie was filmed, and there was like a huge deal with whether or not they should do that because it was named after a president that was racist. Well, everybody was racist in that period of time, and that is a bit of an issue. Today we look at it in hindsight. We don't look at it in terms of, what the norm was. And for Archie Bunker, that was your average blue collar, middle class individual. For Ted Bundy or Al Bundy, Ted Bundy. For Ted Bundy, things were completely different. But for
and also like you have to keep in mind, like you were like, I wonder if the people who made it were more socially aware than they let on. Like, dude, the person who created, All in the Family is the same person who created Maude. So yeah, I'd say he's pretty fucking aware. I mean, it was a lot of B. Arthur's influence as far as the topics to tackle, but it was very much a partnership. And he was fully aware of everything that came out of Archie Bunker's mouth and the gravity of the things he said.
Sarah, do you think that it was more so do you think that more so was a bit of a
Mandarin?
Not so much. No, not a pandering. More so like a mockery.
I think in the '90s, I think directors and writers pandered.
I think
yeah,
it was more. I think it's more of a
pandering
mockery.
to an audience that eats that up for sure. Like, you know, but I do think that in the case of All in the Family, what I think is really interesting, and also I feel like I don't know a lot of times where I've seen it. You have a show that has a lot of homophobia, a lot of racism, all from the main character who the spotlight is on most of the time. And then they create a character, Maud. Like, Maud is, you know, an offshoot of All in the Family. And, you know, she's a cousin, and she's like the most liberal feminist. She fucking hates Archie. She can't stand him because he's such a racist piece of shit. And I think it's interesting that then Maude was created as its own show, and it sort of showed the complete opposite side of everything that All in the Family showed you in this household where the head of the household is racist, and, you know, he thinks very specific old-timey thoughts. And then Maude comes along, and it's like this super feminist. She's running for state senator. Like, you know, she's had like 6 husbands. She jokes about it. She had it. Dude, there's an episode where she has an abortion. Like, that was fucking insane in the 70s. Like, and that was made by the same guy. And it's like such a weird counter if you know that, like, that's in the same universe. Those characters are relatives, and it's made by the same guy. And it's such an interesting balance in a way to show the inside of those two households and the repercussions of their daily lives and how their beliefs affect their lives. Yeah, like, it's weird because Archie is very offensive, but, like, I feel like his supporting characters help you deal with that better than something like, what the fuck is the show with Al Bundy? Better than
Married
that
with
show's
Children.
supporting characters help balance out the things about Al Bundy that you might not like or find to be offensive in some way. I feel like his supporting characters are just that, like, which ones have substance of any kind? Because
that's how I feel though about the people that are in, like, when you say that about him and you say, you know, like Rob Reiner and is it Rob Reiner? That's Rob Reiner.
No, it's
right?
Norman Lear.
No, the son.
Oh, yeah, the son. Yeah, that.
Right.
Yeah, Reiner.
Like his supporting characters are always trying to set him straight, and that's where I feel like it's not pandering. It's let's mock the old school. You know, it's the show is created at a point where a lot of liberal hippies and shit like that were popular culture. So, like, for that guy, he was the old guy. He was the guy who was like, all right, come on, Dad, you can't be like this forever. Like, it was constantly a change. But however, it did also include a character that a lot of people associated with, and it carried on stereotypes, and it carried on all of that, like, that nuance where you're like, now it's kind of, I can't show this live, but if you have an open mind, you can find humor in it for the period of time and how ridiculous it was. I think there's a hard separation between people understanding that there is humor to that if you can look back on it and say, I can't fucking believe this was normal. You know, like, that's
Sanford and Son.
I love Sanford and Son. I grew up on Sanford and Son, you know, and that's something that, so Red Fox is a comedic genius. Like,
totally.
Red Fox makes Sammy Davis Jr. look like shit. Like, it's, I have always appreciated the comedy that was a transition to that late 60s, early 70s, and into the 80s humor that Red Fox brought, both in his stand-up and the movies that he made. So, like, when it comes to his character and that, he played into a stereotype for humor. And it was a humor that you see stereotyped on stand-up comedians that are of color, you know, that attempt to try to play into some of that shit. And I don't know, Red Fox is a man of a period of time that, again, you kind of either accept him for his humor the way that he was, and he attempted to play a part in showing what it was like to live at the very bottom of the barrel, and it wasn't trying to portray something, a stereotype. It was more of a, this is my life situation, and he was fucking hysterical about it the whole fucking time. So I don't know. I don't think that show was written to do what other shows may have done in terms of portraying a particular racial stereotype or something like that. I think that show is I don't know. If you go back 20 years, 30 years before that, and you go to Little Rascals and shit like that, I think you could point that kind of stuff out. And, you know, but
Definitely.
For me, film and interpretive kind of television and stuff like that is a wonderfully interesting subject to talk about because of the way that people interpret that kind of stuff.
Sure. Because people don't. How do you explain?
I think a lot of people do take those shows, take everything that happens in film, and immediately overnight, like in a thought process of like two statements or something that's in a scene, go, ugh, no, fuck this. But if you take it for the time that it's in, like, there were a ton of successful black shows in the 70s, right?
The Good Times, which, by the way, is another it's an offshoot of Maude. So, like, we have one guy who managed to make a show about a bunch of fucking racist head of household, then a show about an ultra liberal feminist white middle-aged woman, and then a show about a black family living in basically the projects, and like that one guy's range as far as like Good Times was such a fucking underrated it's such a fucking amazing show, and the characters on that show are like, they have a lot of fucking substance. Same with Maude. Like, there's a lot of substance to those characters, and All in the Family. Like, that's, I think, what sets it apart. They if there is an issue, it is picked apart. It's not just glazed over. It's not just a fat joke and move on. Like, it's the issue of the episode.
Right.
You know, and I think that's probably what makes it different.
And to that, I could say that, yeah, I could see some toxic moments in Married with Children that have no merit. Certainly, I can. But I could also see at the time the people thinking that was okay to do. That doesn't make it okay to do, but
no. But I think those shows have a lot. I mean, those shows, they're shows, man. They're stupid comedy shows. They're slapstick bullshit comedy put into a sitcom. Like, but
the way people take their fucking cues off of TV at that time.
Oh,
you have to wonder about that.
Like,
Sarah and I were just talking the other day about how, you know, no offense to people who are watching. I'm sorry to say this, but generally speaking, I have to believe that most boomers are sociopaths until they prove different, and a lot of them, you know, took their fucking cues off of shit like that, man. Like, they couldn't separate the fucking two.
I think that the hardest part, you know, and what I've noticed with that, you know, exactly what you're saying, just to kind of stretch off, and I won't take up too much here, but
take up all the time you want.
But what I've noticed societally, based on what you're saying, is that there's a definitive lack of, in most cases, there's a definitive lack of objective understanding of how the world is, even the country itself.
Sure.
Right? It's a very, you have to recognize that the people that come out of the 50s and 60s compared to the amount of education that is today. And it's not take away from anybody. Not saying that they're not smart and that
bullshit. I call bullshit on what you're saying right now, Rob, and here's the reason why I call bullshit on it.
I didn't even fucking say anything yet, Stone.
No,
You're automatically assuming what the fuck I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
No,
he calls bullshit on everything you're about to maybe say.
Yeah, like I didn't even make a statement yet.
No, because fucking, here's the thing, man. Married with Children, when they were making fun of fat people, the actual people that they were being cruel to were on the margins of society. That most of the obesity at that point in time was being generated out of these fucking McDonald's and Burger Kings that were coming out.
Yeah, that's what you think, Stones.
Look,
nobody ever Stones. You're not even half the fan. You're not even half the fan of Married with Children that I am, and I can fucking tell you. I can tell you definitively they weren't commenting on the McDonald's culture. Like it
No,
was a
they didn't
cheap
give a shit
fucking
about the
joke.
margins of society. They didn't give a shit about the margins of society. Just like today, nobody gives a shit about the people that don't have a fucking voice. The proof is in the one-eyed jokes that come out that are just fucking laughed at, and there's no repercussion. People like me don't have a fucking voice, and we just have to fucking eat it, and that's it. And that's what that's what I mean.
So
Like,
Sarah just said, find an episode of Married with Children where they make fun of a fat man, and we'll see. We'll hold that up against what you're saying.
I'm kind of lost. I'm kind of lost.
But I will say this though. I will say this though. It was Married with Children was focused on Al Bundy. Al Bundy was character number one. So most things would happen from his perspective. So in terms of, so this is where I start to fall apart, because on the one hand, I agree with you, because no matter what the fuck you put out in the world, and it's network TV, let's be honest, it's not fucking real art, but to some extent it fucking is. Like, you know, how could you say Kim Convenes is...
Dude, I'm a bit confused here on a couple of things. So first of all, I'm not quite sure where does Stones feel marginalized here. I'm not.
Stones has got some personal issues with whatever the fuck we're talking about.
And how did we get from Sanford and Son and racial demographics and shows back to Al Bundy? And second and third, how is Al Bundy a misogynist? I thought Al Bundy played a fucking beat up man who'd been in a fucking shit marriage and was.
Let me tell you something.
Trying to support a family of four who didn't appreciate him as a father.
The shit
like
that he said
wasn't the whole role of him being worn out and fucking like.
No, because
his dreams were dead, and that's a good point, Rob. Because at the end of the day, Al Bundy never cheated on his wife. He never hurt his family ever.
Al Bundy got up, went to work, came home, and was just fucking miserable.
It was about a man who hated his life. It's about a man who ruined his own life and blamed everyone else for it.
Oh, I feel like we're marginalizing Al Bundy down to a few comments he made at the shoe store about people's shoe size, and 4 or 5 comments about women's weight, which at a time in that period, were wrong.
At the same time, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fucking fact that this was the 80s, for the most part, in the early 90s, and the truth of the matter was that when it came to women, their opinion about the world exactly right. So there was, in fact, a lot of misogyny that was toxic attached to it, but at the time, you know what I'm saying. So imagine being a woman in the 80s or the 90s. Okay, it's not good. It's not like it is now, where you have the opportunity. At least now you have the opportunity to say that motherfucker right there. And the whole world goes.
I'm going to ask a question of the females on this show and the people in the chat. Where do you stand when it comes to like women that are comfortable being subservient, housewives, trophy wives?
So painful. Can I comment on that?
Like women for Trump kind of shit. That's the way I look at it. That's the only way I can look at it, is it's women for Trump. Like they're all collectively like, yeah, I'm cool with being the domesticated.
I feel like that's a lot of religious manipulation, but
I don't think that. I think that's a preordained kind of.
No,
thought.
I don't think so. I think that's a general misconception about like female empowerment in general. It's like you can be very empowered and be a housewife if that's what you want to do.
Sure.
Generally, it's like whatever you choose. You're not following like what someone else is telling you to do. So like if somebody wants to have kids and be married and like stay at home and like deal with all that, sure, why not? I don't think there's anything wrong with being like subservient if that's your choice to do so. But like if your husband's like, no, you gotta stay home, like this ain't cool, like you can't work or anything like that, that's different.
Can I say something?
But if you're making an active choice, then that's, hey, more power to you.
Had none of you ever come across, and Sarah, I still want to hear your perspective on this, but had none of you when you were younger known someone that was Peggy Bundy to a T? Because I knew a lot of people that were Peggy Bundy to a T.
But what choice did people have?
Kristen, no offense, it may be a little bit out of your generational market.
Hold on, but what choice did people have, Rob? In order to, like in the 1980s, what choice did you have to be except to be some fucking suburban drone that fit into a fucking category, unless be called a freak? You know what I mean? Like
Then you moved to New York City.
I wasn't raised by a woman that acted like that, so I don't
You
know.
moved to
She
New
had a
York City,
choice. She
and you
worked.
find your group of freaks. That's all. Like that. There's whole subcultures.
I didn't feel like
developed
that was
around
a
that.
suburban. I didn't feel that she was a suburban freak. I felt that she was just the standard 1991.
And you don't see a problem with that?
What's the problem?
The problem with just being a person in 1991?
Oh, I mean, I see a lot of problems, but I also see a lot of problems with women being alive in 1955 too.
100%, 100%, dude. I don't feel like women's rights have changed.
But
until recently, it's improved.
But again,
maybe, and I'm not the person to comment. Go ahead.
It'll come. It comes full circle back around to what Stones cut me the fuck off with his ignorant ass. Is that when it comes down to people. When it comes down to people, understanding how societal roles were played, and particularly gender roles, 1955. Again, back to that
100%.
Post-World War II world. The educational level is of a 10th grade reading, writing, mathematical understanding, and they were prescribed to how their families handed down gender roles. And then they were advertised fucking gender roles. So through 1950 to 1960, women knew their fucking place. Wash the clothes, do the dishes, raise the kids, put your little dress on, prepare my drink, and when I get home, I'm going to put on my loafers, and you're going to have a fucking microwavable meal in front of me so I can watch the baseball game, eat, drink, and get drunk, and maybe beat the shit out of you or rape you.
Drink a beer that says no frills on it.
That was perfectly fine for 30 fucking years, dude. So by the time you get to Al Bundy, that's the guy who thought he was going to live that life. And I think that there was more power for Peggy Bundy in that show that took away from Al's expectation of where he was going to go. He was going to be a football star who
Can I just tell you how
dominant
impressed I am that you brought it back to Al Bundy again?
Total understanding of it, man. It's a societal exchange. It's evolution of the male. That masculinity is so small now.
So how
that
much
the people that live like that are fucking terrified. The same way white people are afraid of any minority.
I want to ask a million questions, but I want Kristen to respond and Sarah to respond because they haven't yet, and you and I are just yelling over everything.
I still want Sarah's perspective on women that are like trophy wives and kind of live their lives okay with being semi-irrelevant in a marriage. Irrelevant
in a marriage is a little different. I guess when you say trophy wife, I don't know why, like, my mind just sort of jumped to a situation where, first of all, I don't know why I immediately imagined rich people. Like, I don't know why I thought that, but I don't know if Kristen did too, but I immediately jumped to like
housewives,
I was thinking of like a guy in a mansion with like the woman who like just shops with his money and stuff, but he's okay with that because she's like, like looks like a fucking 30-year-old model and he's like 80. Like, so first of all, the mutual understanding that that's okay with both of them is like the problem with like, women's rights issues isn't that, they were a mom or they were expected to cook dinner, and they really like cooking dinner, but you shouldn't expect it. The issue is that this is what your life is, whether you like it or not, because this is what society expects. And if you do anything other than that, you're going to be outcasted as a freak. Like, so if their mutual decision is we want to get married, then there is no difference between that and her choosing to go be a businesswoman herself. Like, that she made the choice. Like, and that's it. It's just having the freedom to decide who you want to be is the issue. And it sounds like in that case, they both had the freedom, and as long as they can both walk away if they want to, or none of them are forced to stay that way if they want to change, then there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. I mean, unless she's like underage, that fucking 16-year-old blonde chick that
sorry, before I forget, what do you guys think about Three's Company? Do you think they're going to go after that soon, or have they tried?
I only watched enough of that show to really have any opinion on the context of it at all. So I hate
to be
Jack
gay to get out.
I love that show.
He's like constantly groping the chicks that he lives with and stuff like that. And
Really? Ugh.
But there's shows that like are more recent that are problematic too. Like, what was that show with the How I Met Your Mother? Problematic as hell. Like, if you look back at old episodes, like I cringe. But I mean, like, you know, it's just mindless TV. Like, I don't know. It's just like Rick said, it's just network TV, or I think it was Rock. I don't know which one it was. But yeah, I don't know. Three's Company was a great show. I used to watch that with my mom all the time. Or like other shows too. Like there's episodes of.
So if you like the show, it's off limits.
Wait, what?
So if you like the show, it's off limits. But if you don't like it, it's whatever.
I mean, I can't speak. I really married with children because I wasn't allowed to watch it. Like I wasn't allowed to watch Roseanne or any of the other fun TV shows. But like the only ones I really watched were like Seinfeld and like Three's Company because my mom was a big fan, and then what was the one where they were stuck? Gilligan's Island, when they were all stuck on the island. I used to watch that too.
Randy Brewer said, "Why didn't Ginger and Marianne never make dinner? Why did they never?"
Why?
Hey guys,
it's another one I've never seen. I've never really seen Gilligan's Island before.
And Melissa said some of those shows don't age well, especially since society has changed. And to me, that's part of the reason why it's important. In the same way, it's important to not change books that have horrible shit in them, because it's a timestamp. So I wonder about that.
For sure, absolutely, dude. It's just like the way
is that
people write.
timestamp important? Like, is that step like?
Rick,
like I hear people attack comedians
English,
from the 80s and the 70s, and I go, okay, number one, I understand. I just want to make that clear. I get it. You're making a point, and your point is valid. But I also want you to understand that some of the things that guys like Eddie Murphy said in the 70s and 80s got me to where I am now. So you need to understand that there's
when you teach Mark Twain. I mean, where do you stand on the banned book bullshit? You know what I mean?
So that's a great question. So to me,
so hold on. Before you start, let me just introduce Natale's done. Natale's done here. So Nat's here. I'm actually sitting right next to him, so we're gonna play the mute and unmute game, so you don't hear echo and stuff like that. But he just got done working. So
get ready to feel my fucking pain, dude. Because you forget that mute button every 5 seconds.
No, we're not playing that fucking game.
I
understand where you're at.
Right here.
I'm not gonna yell at Nat though. I'll be the one that mutes. But this is Natale Amato. He's the owner of Natale's Hair Studio, and he's the singer of Kirkby Kiss. Been in a band with him for the last 20 years. Great guy. So, Natale, how are you?
I'm doing good, Rob. Thanks for having me on, everybody. Sorry to be so late to the party.
Well, welcome to the show, man. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
So what were you saying? What were you saying with all that?
We can't erase our past, as bad as it may be. And the interesting thing is, there's so much attention being brought to like the idea of we're erasing our past by pointing out that this show had this shit in it and this show was super fucking racist. But there's not a whole lot of attention being paid to where history is actually being erased, which is in history fucking classes, where they're trying to change what children learn about slavery and stuff. And I feel like everyone that's collectively angry about TV shows because of history being changed should swing their attention over and really focus hard on how they're trying to change it in the classroom, where children are forced to pay attention and not a TV show that they can walk away from. And that's really going to actually sink into their fucking brains and change the way they grow up.
It's actually way worse than what you're saying there, Sarah. I was reading some things about this whole curriculum with racism, racist curriculum to shine a light on this country's past. And there are hordes of parents that are speaking up at PTA meetings saying that, we need to repress this. We're not going to have our children.
Right. That's why teachers need to start becoming independent.
we're not going to have our children hating this country. This is another step towards socialism.
It is not.
Socialism. Yeah, this is what they're saying, though.
It
This
is
what
not. It is not a step toward kids hating this country. It's a step towards ensuring that kids don't do the same shit that their generation learns. You don't fucking do that like they do in fucking Germany.
I'd like to say something. That socialism shit, trying to stop people to talk about the horrific shit that happened during fucking capitalism isn't socialism. It's talking about what happened during capitalism. So let's just make that clear. When people list this shit and they're like, oh, look how close we are to socialism. It's going to be lines for food and blah, blah. And it's like, bitch, you're talking about shit that's happening fucking now. Yeah. People can't afford to go to the doctor now.
It's insane. They're like, we don't want our kids to hate themselves because of their whiteness, and it's really crazy. It's
hate
really
themselves.
Really
Learn
crazy.
from your fucking predecessors, man. They're not all good. Like, why the fuck do we have to? Why do we have to teach kids that this country's all good? Like, how is that a benefit, man? Like, it's important to understand that you fuck up and fuck ups happen, man. Like, that shapes your character in a positive way. So, I'm sorry, Kristen. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, I mean, a lot of it is just like I read that article about I think it's like parents banding together to ban critical race theory in classes, and like
that's what it was called.
Yeah, it's critical race theory, and basically, I mean, what the really fucked up part about it is that critical race theory is basically looking at history through the lens of a marginalized community, a marginalized community that's a different race than the predominant one that we have now in America, which is, white, Anglo-Saxon, Christian, Protestant, whatever. And the really messed up part of it, it's not teaching people to hate. It's just teaching, look, this is like history from our perspective. These are the things that have happened that have caused us generational trauma. And there is such an ego and entitlement to having history taught in one way that parents aren't even willing to have their children sit down.
That. Could you say?
Oops, sorry, I don't know what my Siri is on. But there's like it's really messed up that like parents don't want to have their children learn to be empathetic. Basically, is what I was trying to say. Because critical race theory, like I said, is just you're learning from the perspective of another race.
So let me ask you something.
If you can, yeah.
You mean in a country that's valued on the individual and not the collective, that it's hard to come from that entitlement standpoint?
Stones, my question was going to be, do you think that the reason why empathy is not more first off it'd be a better planet if we had more empathy, but do you think that the reason why empathy isn't pushed in this country is because it's considered a weakness?
100%.
Yes.
100%. It's really sad, but like, and I don't mean to draw this like connection in like a shitty way, because there's obviously a lot more factors to it, but like there's a reason why there's so much violence in this fucking country. And like empathy is it's the easy answer, of course, without talking about gun laws and all that other shit. But at the end of the day, like there's a serious issue where like we're not sitting down and thinking about other people. And I think like within the last year, we've seen that and come out and play in like a really ugly, negative way. And I think that like if we continue down this path where we're not teaching empathy, or we're not teaching from an empathetic lens, it's going to end really poorly, as we've seen in real time with the last year. And I mean, with just all the like the fucking shootings and all this other, like the fact that like we're so numb to the suffering of other people whenever there's one of these like mass shootings it's problematic.
Like I've said so many times on this show that until empathy is a core part of early education, there is literally nothing we're going to do to make this country better that will stick. Hands down, nothing. That's how it has to start. That's what has to be done. If there was like a sense of responsibility to make sure that your neighbor is well and is okay the same way you would yourself, we would have health care for everyone. We wouldn't have shooter drills in fucking school. We wouldn't have debates about whether teachers should carry guns for an extra $500 in their pocket. Like, we wouldn't debate whether it's right to pay someone enough that they can buy dinner for themselves after working like 70 hours in 1 week. Like, those wouldn't be up for debate anymore, and politics would lose a lot of fucking lobbying money because we gave a shit enough about the people at the bottom who were being stepped on. So empathy can't be a core part of our country unless people are willing to finally accept that the country should change.
I do think
there's too many rich and powerful people that don't want that to happen. Yeah. So Rick, here we are.
Rick, I'm going to ask you because we deal with a lot of that population now. You know, I've noticed for the most part, and I agree with Sarah. I've been on that mindset for a long period of time, but I feel that there is a big transition happening in that regard, and we it's not going to be overnight. And
what kind of transition? What do you mean transition? How?
Empathetic, or in this case, not empathetic. I think lack of hatred.
Yeah. So to answer your question,
more so an idea that the generations that are between, you know, now if you want to use age gaps, you know, between the ages of say 7 and 18, maybe 7 and 25.
Can I tell you something?
Point, I don't see a lot of that anymore.
You know what's beautiful? You know what's beautiful about great literature?
I don't.
It is the fact that you get to experience the world through the eyes of another human being in a very authentic way. Mm. And the better it is written, the better the experience and the more understanding you gain from the world. And good literature should do that. So, you know, Randy Brewer asked, how do you teach empathy? And I think that what we're seeing in this generation is people have the ability now to see into another person's life in a very authentic and personal way. And that's why we are seeing, you and I, Rob, from Generation Z especially, we are seeing people become more accepting. We're seeing, you know, more of what you're talking about. This is starting to swell up. This empathy is starting to swell up.
Oh, yeah. I think, and sometimes it's not even empathy. Sometimes it's not even recognition of what other generations think of as hate. I usually agree with Randy on a lot of things. I wholeheartedly disagree with Randy on this one. And
how do you mean?
Well, Randy thinks that you can't teach empathy, and
I disagree completely. I think empathy is 100%.
I disagree 100%. It's not that you teach empathy; it's that you teach. No.
It's not about teaching empathy.
Understanding.
It's about being an example of empathy.
It's not showing
what that empathy.
He just said.
Go ahead.
He just said it's from youth genetics and how they're raised. You can't combine.
Right. But even saying how they were raised is a taught thing.
Right. You can't combine genetics and how they're raised. That's two different things.
They're two separate things. Yes.
And genetics does not breed racism.
Here's the thing. If you're a human being, you're supposed to be able to understand empathy, unless something sincerely traumatic has broken that for you.
Yeah. For sure.
So I think that where the internet wins a lot is that it sometimes shows certain levels of empathy that do have an effect on people. And I think what wisdom really is the ability to understand the world around you on a deeper level, which only comes from experience, which would mean that experience is the teaching that you need in order to be able to do that.
And if you have a generation of parents that actually experience things rather than live in a bubble of ignorance, they then breed to their children life experiences and give them experiences.
So Randy's kind of you're sort of negating your own point because you said it can't be taught, but then you said it's something that they learn at home, but they learned it at home because they were taught it from the people that they were raised by, and in that way they could see other examples of better things in education. There's our country is not this isn't the only way it is. There's other countries where empathy is an actual part of early childhood education.
100%, yes.
And I imagine that if you look at statistics, there'd be a lot of things that affects in the when they become young adults.
I want to ask Natale, because Natale has three children. He has 4 kids total, but 3 that are that he's. I mean, he's got one that's an adult. He's got one that's going to be an adult, and he's got one that's 25 trapped in a. How old is your daughter? Yeah, she's got the 25-year-old mindset and a 10-year-old child. But how do you see that? Because Natale lives in Asbury, so
Sure.
It's a very diverse community. What do you see in that? Based on your life experiences, being in a hardcore scene, being traveling around the country and being around a lot of people, and how do you see that in your kids now going to school in a diverse area and their take on race and discrimination and stuff like that?
I mean, my kids, I guess, and all their friends, they're very, like, it's a very diverse group. I don't really. In my oldest, he's going to be 19, and he's, you know, like, he didn't start school in Asbury Park. We lived in Point Pleasant for a little while. Actually, he lived in New York to start, in Long Island, and then Point Pleasant in the little white bubble that it is. And then we moved to Asbury, and he assimilated very well and made friends with everybody. And, like, you know, I don't see in that area, in Asbury Park, amongst the kids and stuff, race isn't really even a thing other than for people that are obviously prejudiced and stuff like that. So, like, you know, it's interesting to me, and it living in Asbury and seeing my kids and all their friends and even like us with our neighbors. Like, when we moved there, all the people from around Point Pleasant were like, Asbury Park, what are you, crazy? And I've been playing music in Asbury since I'm like 13 years old. And even I had some like some hesitation to move in there, because I was like, you know, I knew it as the real rough place that it was and still is, honestly.
You get that implanted in you.
Right. But I'm not afraid. Like, I grew up with parents who were very open and, you know, not prejudice. There were prejudices, just that, like, stupid talk. And even, like, growing up, I grew up in Toms River, so, you know, like, there was a lot of dumb talk when we were kids, you know. But I didn't have those like, I was more like accepting and open, and my experiences have always been that, coming from whatever ethnic background or you know, even like whatever your sexual preferences is. Like, I was exposed to all that, and my parents were cool with it, so I was willing to go there and not that fearful, but I was curious with my kids, like, how's that going to be, you know? And honestly, it's been like, it's not really existent there, you know, amongst the younger generation. Amongst the older generation, there is, you know, but I have found you say hello to somebody, they say hello back, you know? So, like, all the fear that everybody from Point Pleasant were like, are you crazy moving to Asbury? You know, I had one of my kids' classmates from Point Pleasant's dad gave me like a freaking mace can in case, God forbid, you know. I'm like, dude, what?
Wow.
Yeah. It was, you know, that was the type of mentality.
Sure.
Like, you better,
sure.
you know, you better
Wow,
own and be
man.
ready to. Yeah, it was crazy, man. And then we moved there, and like, our best friends are all different backgrounds, you know, like our neighbors. And
I feel like our generation has this sort of like weird turning point, and that's why we always have one foot in the old world and another foot in the new world.
mm-hmm.
Is because we kind of like lived through an age where it's like we were supposed to be conditioned to be like people who were born in the 50s and 60s, but in the end it didn't turn out that way. We were exposed to more people. We had greater exposure to the world. So we're way more we're just more open than I think we were planned to be. Does that make sense to you guys?
You're also coming from a place of being in the Northeast. There are still I overheard my son,
Sure, exactly. I understand that totally, dude. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
where he was talking to somebody and he said, "What do you mean you've never seen an African American. Like I heard him say that over his headphones, and I was like, oh, he must be talking to somebody in West Virginia or something. Those pockets still absolutely exist, and that is a huge breeding ground for reservations and fear, because it's fear of the unknown. So those things are still, I think they're still going to wholeheartedly exist. I don't know if humanity is ever going to be able to get rid of that element. I hope it can, but if you look back through the ages, has this ever been overcome?
Hey! In 1994, I had gotten a Woodstock on pay-per-view, and I watched the entire thing for 3 days.
And that was the moment it was overcome. It only lasted 1 day, Stones.
And I remember Perry Farrell from Porno for Pyros and Jane's Addiction. And he was talking about racism on stage. And I'm like 13 years old and I'm sitting there, just some 13-year-old white kid with a white family in a white neighborhood. And he was just like, we need to end racism. And he's like, enough is enough. And he goes, and eventually we're all going to fuck each other so much that we're all going to become one color anyway. And I realized how much of an effect that had on me to hear that. You know what I mean? It was like such a big deal to get that influence from music and from that subculture.
But don't you feel kind of? Go ahead, Kristen. You look like you were about to wind up to say something. Go ahead, say it. Say what you're gonna say.
I was gonna say I feel like Gen X doesn't give themselves enough credit.
No, we don't. No. So
you guys don't.
I'm not exactly Gen X. I'm more of an Xennial.
Okay.
But I get it. But I get it. But go.
Rick's actually a closet.
He gets really touchy about that jail shit.
I'm really into the idea that people born between 1978 and 1982 have been allotted their own like generation.
That 4 years did it.
I'll tell you why.
You had two
cousins that I have.
You had two paths, dude.
Listen.
You were either a yuppie or you were fucking a disgruntled anti-social norm.
Rob, you want to know what the separation is? People who are able to afford houses and people who can't.
Right. And my father could and I can't.
And that's true today.
My father could and I can't, and that's where we are.
Yeah. That's still very true.
So for an Xennial, the idea is that when I was still of developmental years, I can remember a phone being a thing that hung up on the wall in the kitchen as much as I can remember it being a device in my hand that allows me to see my own asshole in real time. So like
You use that see your own asshole example so often that I'm starting to understand why you're constantly taking so fucking long in the bathroom now.
That makes sense.
It does. Like, there's only so many times you can use the same example before people are like, there's something about this.
Something's up with this.
He's got a Rick on the toilet. A Rick on the toilet
app.
Yeah, it's just him live streaming from the toilet.
That's why hi, what's up? Welcome to the toilet.
And we're back.
And we're back.
And we're back. And we're halfway through. And nuggets for days.
Boom, logs. I don't remember what the fuck we're talking about now.
We were talking about you taking pictures of your asshole. Keep up.
Oh, right. So anyway, I'm an Xennial.
You were talking about the connection between having a phone on the wall and a phone that can take pictures of your asshole. That's right.
So I was talking about the separation of the generations, but I don't remember the fuck why.
Woodstock.
I truly feel though.
Right.
Don't give
Woodstock.
enough credit. Oh, Woodstock.
That's right. I said Woodstock '94. Yeah.
Which one was the one?
Oh, Woodstock '94. Let's go back to the original Woodstock where everybody contracted everything and gave it to all their children.
Thanks, liberals.
Yeah, when the lead gasoline was just everywhere.
Remember leaded and unleaded?
Those were the days.
Yes,
Remember the paint aisles that were leaded and unleaded? Like it was
I had a moped that I had to add lead to.
Yeah, man.
I think we look at generations and we go, what the fuck, man, right? Everybody's generationally separated by music, by
And
culture.
dude, by the way, man, like, can I just say this too? Is like this whole generational separation thing is also bullshit.
I
I'm
agree
so
on that
fucking,
one.
Right. Like, I'm so fucking tired of like the excuse, I'm too old to understand that. Go fuck yourself. If you're old enough to be old enough to say that, then you're old enough to have the wisdom to understand the new shit.
I feel that is a cop out of self-awareness. Like if
That's
don't,
exactly what I mean, Rob. Thank you.
people
but,
don't
like,
realize that you were that person at one time. Take a step back and realize you were a fuck up for like 15 years of your life too, and you liked some shit people didn't like, and you stood out. I mean, there's an entire generation of people who were anti-establishment who are now like, follow the establishment. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You literally rioted in the streets, and now we're 30 years later and no one's allowed to do that because what, you got old?
Right.
Like,
What you did was important.
I have to say, though, like, I do. Yes, it is an excuse. It is sort of like I'm set in my ways, so fuck this thing called a computer. But like, after having tried so many times to teach certain age groups how to use certain technology, I don't know if I am fully invested in the theory that everyone could learn. I feel like it's like if us at the age we are now and tomorrow we found out that magic was real, like, I don't feel like we would have the same knack for it than we would if we were bored with it. Like, I feel like that's the issue. Like, there's a huge technology gap. Like, if you guys ever watch the fucking senators sit there questioning Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark Zuckerberg was like, is this a real question? Like, this doesn't even make any sense. I don't even know how to answer this question. Like, those people are in charge of our fucking lives. And they don't even understand, like, simple things, like, don't email pictures of your dick to the entire world and shit like that. Like, they don't understand that. And, like, I don't know if that's because they're just too stubborn to learn or because there's just a wall that you hit, man.
And then they should get the fuck out.
Exactly. Dude, we have a majority like 80-year-olds who are now representing the average American who's 35. Like, are you fucking kidding me, dude?
I think it just comes down to caring. You have to care about learning. If you don't care about learning the thing, you're not going to learn it.
Yeah.
Well, don't you guys think that if anything I've learned, and I went off the last show we had like for a minute about the pandemic thing and people, and I'm sorry for like being volatile about it, but like from a humanistic standpoint, I feel like there's a lot of people that just don't give a fuck to learn. They have no desire to give a shit about anyone else they share this planet with. And
exactly.
more importantly, in this country, this is a bunch of self-serving, fixated, self-conscious people who have no humanity to them at all. They've become just instant gratified people. You don't have to do everything for everybody, but like you have to understand that other people have things going on in their lives, and they come from different backgrounds, but we're all human, and there's not enough people that give two flying shits about that. To think that we are living in an age that, we're in the 21st century. So like all of the shit that we can look back and be like, that was questionable, that's problematic. If that's still a norm, and that's still something you're holding on to for God knows fucking what reason, I don't get it. I don't get 150 years after the Civil War, people still holding on to shit. That's
Dude, we watch Maude all the time, and almost every
back to Maude. Here we go.
Seriously, it's real. Like, the amount of times that Rick and I look at each other and go, I can't fucking believe this was decade. Like, they are talking about, it's like they watch
the same
news today, and then the whole episode is about something happening now. And almost every fucking episode is like that. And it's like, wow, it's like we're just doing the same shit.
It's the same shit. It's on a fucking loop. It's on a loop. The same shit's always the problem. The economy is failing. The Middle East is a problem. We have a semi-problem with the Russians and the Cubans. And comedy goes this way. And the liberals are mad about this. And the fucking Republicans are mad about that. And it's just like, it's like a fucking loop.
Dude, but you know, but there's a line.
And I gotta wonder, is the culture controlled? Are they controlling the music we get now? Are they going, okay, this is it's 2001. In 1991, we redid punk. In 2001, redo punk again. In 2011, redo punk again. And like, but they do that with politics, they do it with art.
You just change it from a major chord to a minor chord. That's it, man. You know, all you got to do.
Rick, don't you find it kind of funny? I mean, you named a bunch of shit, but what's hysterical to me about it, and also very concerning, is that a generation of people just supported a leader of our country that was proactively trying to encourage and mend relationships between Russia, and at the same time, a generation of people who 30 years ago told Russia to go shove it, with a president who was like, knock down that fucking wall, fuck Russia, and all this crazy shit, supported the same fucking president that was the opposite side of it. So the hypocrite aspect of it, you know, in a lot of...
All I'm saying is that it goes back and forth.
Well, I'm saying that
it's the
not
same
even a back
bullshit
and forth.
over and over.
The pendulum is obvious. But for people that are of that thinking, that are hypocritical, very hypocritical, and once you find someone like that, all you have to do is ask several questions about other matters, and you get to a point where you're like, you don't even know why you believe in this. Yeah. You don't even know what you're thinking, because what you're thinking is quite literally the antithesis of what the whole entire beginning is of your party, your political beliefs, whatever the fuck it may be. So you're not even thinking for yourself. And these are people that are 40, 50, 60 years old.
The scariest thing is large groups of people who believe in something and have no idea why they do. That has been the most destructive force in this planet since human beings have existed. We just believe. That's just the fucking way it is.
It's keeping up with the Joneses. I saw it in sales. I didn't believe it. You know, I was in a technology market that wasn't widely adopted, and I listened to all these marketeers talk about the graph of the market adoption and how it's going to take off, you know, in the near future. And then it did take off. And what I noticed with the customers was it was just people doing things because their neighbors did it. There was no other depth than that in a lot of cases. It was really unfortunate to witness that.
Right. That's what, you know, if you read the story of the lottery, that's what that's about, where they just stone somebody. And and they get to the point where they don't even know why they do it anymore. They just do it because they've always done it. But that shit's dying, man. If there's anything that makes Generation Z amazing, it is their ability to point out bullshit. And part of the bullshit that they're pointing out has to do with why do we work like this? Why do we socialize like this? Why are our work hours like this?
I think that's the major part of the problem about trying to teach an older person computers is like you have to put yourself in their shoes and understand that they don't even know how to turn this thing on. They don't understand the intuitiveness of how these things evolved over the years, like the power button just having a symbol on it, the play button just having a triangle now.
That's exactly what I meant. Like, there's like a wall
but you
where
have
like you've missed so much history that it's just so close to impossible after that level. Like, we know what we know mostly because we grew up knowing it. You had to know it. And I just feel like there is a limit. Like, certainly there are people above that age that can do it, above a certain age. But, like, it seems like the majority, it's just there's a fall-off point. And those are the same people that are fighting for education.
First learning a language.
What's crazy?
Like, these are the same people, like boomer age. Those are the people that are in control of politics. They're in control of higher education. And like Rick and I talk about this all the time. Imagine how technologically advanced higher education would be right now if people our age were at the top of higher education.
Correct.
Like, think of virtual reality in your fucking nursing classrooms and how important that would be. Think of the idea of actually handicapped accessible classrooms without the need of a pandemic, just because disabled people exist and they deserve to also get an education. Like, imagine that. Like, ideas that to a certain group of people seem like, it seems like novelty to a certain group of people, but to our age, this is life. This is everyday life. So why isn't it part of the most important parts of our society? Because they're being held fucking hostage.
Yeah. By the boomers.
And like, I'm not like, oh, fuck all boomers, but like, I do think that there has to be some self-awareness of like, you know what, I don't really understand this, but I do understand how it could benefit. I need someone else to work on this.
I don't think you have to say fuck boomers. I think it's just, that's what it is. Without categorizing them, it's just a generational withholding. That's that in it, and that in its very essence is, forgive me, conservatism. And to tie that into republicanism is wrong. And I hate that a lot of people say, well, if you're a Republican, you're conservative. That's terrible, because there are a ton of liberal conservatives that I know. There are a lot of people that are liberal that could give a shit less about some of the liberal things that go on, but they refuse to let go of the traditions. And the traditions are some of the things that weigh into child rearing and family organization and business organizations that carry systems of beliefs and things that are detrimental to society. And it doesn't make you a Republican because of that. And I have to be clear that when people say Republican and they infer conservatism comes in a lot of different ways. It's conservative means you just like that the way it is. Don't move it forward. Don't progress. So that doesn't mean the blanket statement. It doesn't mean that people there shouldn't be same-sex marriage. There shouldn't be, like pro-choice. It's that maybe they're conservative in a particular way, and they consider themselves blanketly conservative, not Republican, not in a certain demographic, but
what about in today's world? Do you think people fucking are able to pull those nuances together about themselves?
I'm talking about today's world. The problem is no. The problem is no, they can't. They've been taught that Republican means conservative and Democrat means liberal. And almost now, Democrat means far left and Republican means far right. When in reality, it's all
Democrats
shit.
Definitely don't mean far fucking left if you're paying attention.
This whole country is way more conservative than it really understands. Mm-hmm. And even the most normal liberal is right. And the right-wing people are like, no. And that's how extreme right-wing
Did you say the most normal liberal?
The most moderate liberal, I should say.
Well, yeah. Think of how they talk about Joe Biden, like he's like a socialist mastermind.
Joe Biden's quite literally a Republican.
And then you're
literally
the guy's kind of doing the same shit George Bush was doing. I don't understand the distinction.
What's liberal about any
Joe
of
Biden,
this?
You haven't seen a fucking liberal president. That's
right. No. Never, dude. Never.
Maybe Jimmy Carter was probably the only real.
At a time where liberalism was like,
Yeah.
Passed a couple laws.
The war criminal Jimmy Carter, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, like his U.S.
They're all fucking war criminals, Stones.
His U.S. policies were pretty liberal for the time. I mean, so was like what FDR was pretty what we would consider to be liberal now.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the sad thing is where we've gotten now, and I always say this, like, American politics literally exists to get people to be moderate. But where we're at now is a really fucking terrifying place to be, because now there is no fucking moderate. Now it's extreme right-wing politics, and then regular ass Republican conservative politics, and anything that's democratic, which low key is Republican is considered to be leftist propaganda or leftist politics or anything like that.
So
and
what
it's
you're
like,
saying is that this country is so pulled to the right
yeah.
that even being considered a liberal is almost to the right.
Think about like Kamala.
Because I always
don't
call
agree.
myself a
I don't
leftist.
agree with that at all because no, because that implies that if it wasn't so polarized that you would see Democrats for who they really are, which is
It's
liberal
not that
and
it's
progressive, and it's not. The truth is that the Republican Party has turned into such a cult that it makes the otherwise very blatant Republican stances that Democrats take get cloaked.
yes.
And you don't notice
That's
it
what
as
I'm
much
saying.
next to the
It's not both sides.
psychopaths.
Like
And,
there's no left.
Progressives are this whole like idea of like, oh, progressives want everything. Progressives are all or nothing. And like, I'll be honest with you, I don't see anything fucking wrong with that. I really don't. If you are younger than me, if like Kristen decided to have a child today, she couldn't tell that child, you have 100% guarantee that when you grow up, this environment is going to be able to sustain you and your family.
Yeah. No,
So
never.
why isn't there a sense of emergency for the younger generation of progressives to say shit needs to change now? We're not debating this for another fucking 50 years. I'm sorry. Like, there is a reason why there's an emergency. Like, when you're bankrupt because you have cancer, that's a fucking emergency. Like, that's not something you debate forever. And that's all that younger generations have seen their entire lives are people do nothing and pretend they're on two sides when they're the same fucking side.
Right.
And that's the biggest downside of progressives is that they decided we can't do it on our own. We're going to do it with the Democratic Party, who's inherently against 99% of everything we fucking stand for, which is actual change happening quickly. And because of that, they're going to fail repeatedly because they now have to depend on those people who are just basically there to hold them back from any progress at all.
Isn't kind of like progression like part of liberalism? They want change. They want government intervention to make the changes. Isn't that?
I think
Yeah.
that it's not. I don't think it's just. I don't think it's just that they want government to make changes. I think that they want a good government to make good changes.
Yeah, I mean, but that's
when
like
it
a
comes
pipe
to
dream.
democratic
Government to
socialism
work
specifically, you're listen, Republicans were the ones who sort of tried to poison everybody into believing big government is always evil. You can never trust anything, so let's have government just do nothing to take care of anyone fucking ever. But still pay taxes because we have to buy bombers. We don't have to worry about your health care, though, because that's big government. And, like, that's a poison. Like, we're a community of people with an elected government. We should be happy to say, yeah, big government's good for some things. They're the ones with the billions of dollars to fucking dole out in the places where where we see that it's necessary. And that's part of the poison that keeps us in this trap. Like, democratic socialism, basically, the reason it exists is because companies and corporations took over control of everything. Without any checks and balances to that control, we're in a situation where now, if you look at what's happening in New York, there's a majority that's pro a single-payer healthcare system in New York right now. It's not going to the floor for a vote because fucking unions and an insurance company are fighting them to not hold the vote because the vote will pass. It has an overwhelming support from both Republicans in New York and Democrats in New York and the citizens, and it's not going to pass because of fucking billion-dollar insurance companies and unions that give their union members their own version of health care, and they don't want to fucking get that gone. So without those checks, like, what's scarier, big government or big corporation? Like, you elect your fucking government officials. You're not electing your fucking corporations that are actually ruining your lives.
Yeah, it's.
I think too, we're at a point in history that's interesting when it comes to architecture. When it comes to some of that, because if you look at architecture, originally the largest buildings were religious structures. And then after that, the largest buildings the largest architecture was government establishments. And now the largest buildings are corporations. Clearly they are the ones in control, just as once upon a time it was the government. And before that it was, religion.
I mean, couldn't you just argue that you need a lot of people in the building and that's why?
Yeah, it's scary thinking about all this, like the political climate in the context of like, holy shit, the earth is like literally melting and like no one's actually doing anything about it. And there is this lack of urgency. And I think it's basically like what Rob was saying. It's like a lot of Democrats are conservative. Traditional Democrats are conservative. And I know I have like friends who, like voted for Bernie, like, and were hardcore Bernie supporters in 2016. And then like when when he lost and then the second election happened, the one that just passed, we're like, well, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because like none of this shit's is even possible. Like there's no way we're going to get someone who's progressive in office. It's just not possible. Let's just work with the other side. And that's... Mm-hmm.
I think the Constitution itself is conservative in a lot of respects. And I think that's why a lot of the stuff ends up being like that.
Right.
Yeah. No, literally I agree with you. Like that's how this country was set up. But it was set up to get people to be in the middle. But we're no longer in the middle. We're skewed way over to the right. We're not skewed in the middle. Because 100%. You're not having liberal voices. You're not having progressive voices participate and act and be active in government. Local government, state government, yes, kind of, sort of, but federal government, abso-fucking-lutely not. And that's problematic. You basically have a far-right party, like literally the fucking Tea Party, like from back in 2014, 2012, is literally the new Republican Party. And then you have Trump's party, who's also the new Republican Party. And you have people who are Republican who are just Democrats.
Just like, right.
We're skewed to the right. There's no middle anymore.
I think to Kristen's point, what Kristen's saying right now is also problematic because people who side with one particular group that may be in the administration, the main administration of the country, then correlate any state government that does something that president follows or does not follow, associates them with a party rather than looking at the actual state and how the state is run. They look at it like somebody who's sucking the teat of the president or the administration at the time, rather than realizing that a majority of that state voted that person into office, and that person is representing what that state represents, where those people are like, oh, that fucking country's gone to shit. I mean, that state's gone to shit. And you're like, yeah.
Well, they kind of forced your hand with that with the Electoral College.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
So they made it that way to do that exact thing. And it's like, it's working. So.
And it's all going to bite us in the ass in like 30, 40 years.
Or
when they're like, oh, the topsoil's all gone, and like the fucking Arctic shelf is collapsing.
I feel like all that's already happening, and we're just sort of like
it is
living through.
Do you know how crazy it is? Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but like, please. I remember sitting in my when I was in fucking college, and like sitting in my environmental ethics class, and my professor was like, "You're not going to see this in your lifetime. It's going to be fucking fine. It'll probably happen like." Maybe your great grandkids.
Right.
And now I fucking turn on the news and I'm like, holy shit, there's a hurricane. It's fucking May.
Everything's fucking happening 50 times faster than they thought it would.
Yeah.
Everything.
Way faster. And a lot of it, like environmental policy is just so fucking, it's so dense and complicated, and like there's absolutely no urgency whatsoever.
None.
Like
it's disturbing.
It's honestly it really is disturbing. Like the world's largest polluter, like environmentally, is the United States military. Not one fucking thing has happened.
Right.
Like they've not passed one law. They've not passed anything that's like, well, let's try to be a little more environmentally conscious. Like let's.
But the problem too is how they've manipulated even what you're saying, because if you say that, which is 100%, on paper data. it's true, it starts to they'll twist it into like you're anti-military, and they ruin like the entire message. Like it's no, I'm not anti-military. I'm anti doing this.
Exactly. Like, this is an existential threat that
Right.
I don't think people like get that. Like, we need the military. We need to all be here alive. Like, I want to live to see at least 50, like, or, you know,
Sure. And ultimately,
like that, and that's just not that, like, that's so far out of the question. Like,
Is it a threat, or is it the only reason other countries don't fucking smush us into the dirt?
listen, I'll tell you this much, Stones. In the United States spends roughly $700 billion on military defense a year. We're number one. Number two is China, which probably spends between 90 and 100 billion. So that's like 700% less than us. So I wonder what the fuck is really going on sometimes.
Well,
let's also be clear, Stones.
Well,
If a country
there's some nuances.
if a country wanted to actually attempt to do that, we are the one country that has military installations in the entire world.
Whole world.
Everywhere.
It's planet America, dude.
And if China, in a hypothetical situation where China, out of all of our competition, wanted to do that, we owe them half of our national debt. They're not going to wipe out somebody who's money until they take over America.
Or until we take over the whole planet.
Or
Never gonna
we
happen.
go work with them.
You know what? I'll tell you what it is going to happen, and here's why. Every superpower in the world, sooner or later, the people that run every superpower on the planet are going to fucking come together and go, hey, guess what? We, just us in this room, are an entirely different breed than every other human being on the planet. And we're going to come together and we're going to call it Planet, whatever the fuck we call it. Planet Coca-Cola.
Never.
And we're going to run everything.
Happen. Never going to happen.
It's already happening. We're watching corporations shrink. In the 90s, it was like 45 corporations ran the world. Now it's 6. And it's like, it just keeps consolidating. It's not a consolidation of corporations. It's a consolidation of rich and powerful.
But you're never going to see at one point in time a period of peace where that is.
Oh, peace has got nothing to do with it.
No, but what I'm saying is you're never going to see one group of, like, I had back when the 2016 election, prior to the 2016 election,
sure,
it was the whole conversation between people who I was arguing with my friends' parents and stuff because they were convinced that Hillary Clinton, had she got inaugurated or elected and inaugurated, was going to turn us into a new world order, a one world nation with one world currency and what they fail to understand is that globalization has been happening forever.
Yes.
And that English is the language of trade, and that the U.S. dollar is what bases everything.
That's
so
right.
regardless of what you fucking want to accept, that's how the world works and ticks
already.
Now, aside from that, to think that dictators and democratic leaders would come together in a world of competition is asinine. And you see that in the European Union, where England and Greece and countries that don't want to follow the unification of that euro and the unification of that what we have in America, because that's all that is. It's post revolutionary unification.
Sure.
They're a United States without being a one flag United States. And that's because of economics. It's because of the transfer of economics. Because ultimately we're not a United States. We just have one common currency.
Sure.
And in capitalism, that's what unites us.
That's right. That's correct.
The only thing that unites us is capitalistic currency.
Right.
Outside of that, we don't like people across state lines. We honestly do not like our own neighbors. We don't like anybody.
Correct. Yep.
Unless there's a war, and we can make money off.
Right. We unify. Right.
That's the only time we unify. So, the aspect of corporations running things for sure, but there's also leaders that need to abide by particular laws and understanding, and at the end of the day, everyone wants to be the ultimate ruler. So when I heard all that shit in 2016, I was like, one world government, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, do you know how many autocratic and dictatorial governments there are in the world that
I could say something about that.
would never buy into that? They wouldn't buy into it.
There's one way. Only one way.
Oil?
No, not oil. In 1994, William Cooper published that sooner or later, the richest and most elite of the world would stage a UFO invasion, which would then implement a one world government. He was a naval intelligence officer, and it's interesting to me because I'm watching the UFO reports, which mostly seem like bullshit to me, going up during a time where we're very divided. And I wonder, is that what's coming next?
Can I just say,
You ever hear
that
of the Blue Beam
sounds,
Project?
that sounds oddly reminiscent of the Rapture and the Antichrist.
Yeah, but wouldn't you agree that human beings, sometimes that they believe in things so hard that they manifest those things?
I mean, I have people in my life that think that that's the reality, Kristen, that
Me
if
too.
if you're following that book, that the era of Revelations is taking place, and that
Right now.
we are looking at the end of the world. I never looked at it through biblical terms. I've always assumed that just the end of the world was going to come through massive amounts of anger and hate, and then eventually people were just going to demolish each other, and that was inevitable. And it had nothing to do with being Christian. It had nothing to do with that. But
Yeah.
I see a lot of people that are tying those two things together as part of biblical scripture, and
So bizarre.
but those are
People
things
have
that are
always
written
done
about
And
in
painful.
every religion. That's
Yeah.
not, that's like being like the Mayan calendar is going to kill us in 2012. Like
Right.
there's a lot of those factors that, it's part of human condition. That's what happens. Civilizations end, they come to a fault, but the world doesn't end. The civilization does, or the nation
That's
state.
like going back to mud. That's going back to mud. I mean, it's just a loop. The world's always ending.
It's a loop.
Way to patronize.
Listen,
Sarah
guys,
for
let me
no
tell you
reason.
something. Let me
talking
tell
about is
everybody on
the-
this show something. We might, and Pat, tell me if I'm wrong, because you would know. I kind of feel like all of us might be on the verge of an economic boom.
I thought you were going to say mental breakdown.
No, because that's the thing. Every time a generation is on the verge of a mental breakdown, they've learned, twist it into an economic boom, and you will enrich the next generation of people who are supposed to inherit those riches.
Yeah, and Pat, that economic bust will come within 5 years.
Bust and boom. No, but dude, it's a bust and boom. 1970s was the same thing. We were broke. We were fucked.
Dude, I'll tell it again, and Kristen knows where I'm going with this. We're in 1922 right now. It's about to be 1920. About to be 1929 in 4 years. A lot
Quick,
quicker
it's gonna
than you
happen
think it
fast.
is. Get your money out of Robin Hood by 2025.
Right.
I got my money out of Robinhood a long time ago. I was like, they're letting regular people compete in the stock market. This seems like a scam.
Hey, can I? So,
I know,
so
right?
I-
What the fuck?
Can we?
dude?
Can we?
It's fair now. Right.
Can I pivot this conversation, because we've talked a lot about for the last couple of months about the pandemic and how it's
Sure.
affected people and shit like that. I just want to ask Natale, as a business owner,
Please, yes, definitely, please.
because Rick, you and I had a conversation about this briefly today about running a business and having to deal with the impact and the
It's rough.
population.
It's rough.
It's rough. And
Absolutely.
Natale is somebody who's in customer service. It's a face-to-face business. It's a
Sure.
and having a small business versus a corporate business.
Right. And can I say something to as somebody who's a potential customer? When I went to your Facebook page today, Natale, immediately, as somebody who lives in a household that's a little bit difficult to navigate in all of this, I immediately respected you and your business more because you put humanity first. And I felt like that was really important. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
No, I was just giving you a nod and thank you, I guess, I appreciate that.
And I appreciate that because, I know it's been a tough year for people. And I know that it's very hard to try to maintain a business in what's going on. So, to echo what Rob said, how are you holding up? How are things going? Or how have you, tried your best to manage your way through all of this?
I mean, I show up, that's it. I try to, like you said, I'm a business owner. I opened this shop with my father 14 years ago, and I took it over 10 years ago, and I've been running it. And I don't know, man. I'm not a very how could I say it? Like, money is obviously something we need, but it's not my most important priority, to a fault, I guess. But because of that, I just it's been tough, no doubt about it. Closing down for 3.5 months was tough. I definitely there was up until maybe 2 months ago, like every month I was wondering if I was going to have to close, that kind of thing. But
sure.
I just show up. That's just who I am. I show up, and I'm thankful. I have good customers that, continue to come, and I guess I'm fortunate that I've been able to stay open, and yeah, I try not to get too wrapped up in the stress of what's going to happen. And if I that's that's kind of like my way of life, and I'd be full of shit if I said that I'm always like that, but but that's my goal. So every time I stress out, I just try to remember what's important, show up. I'm trying to feed myself and my kids, and give somebody a good haircut, and give them a place to come and talk and vent their problems. And I get out of my own way, and I get to listen to a lot of other people. And I guess that's kind of, how I've gotten through it too, is I'm not alone in this, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that's been struggling. And yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
No,
but,
absolutely you are, man. And I wanted to ask you, when all this shit, started, what were your initial thoughts? Did you think you would go out of business? How did you approach how you were going to handle everything?
My initial thoughts was holy shit, is this the zombie apocalypse? And
sure, yeah,
totally. I was like, all right, so this is what we got to do, and we're closing down, and I was definitely curious what was going to happen, but and there was definitely a little bit of fear and frustration, especially as the uncertainty became more realistic as to okay, this isn't a 2-week close down. Because at first that's what it was like. All right, we're going to close
sure.
for 2 weeks.
Yeah, they said that every 2 weeks for months.
Yeah, and at some point though, after the fear of it, I was like, you know what? I accepted it, and I got to make the best of it. I hadn't had a vacation in over 10 years, and I was
sure.
I had a newborn baby, and I was
sure.
like, whatever, I get to hang out with my family, and I pulled out every penny I had in the bank and stuff like that to
sure.
just make sure that we had, food money, and I had a credit card, so I was like, whatever, I'll burn that up, and I just kind of took it as it came, and I didn't really worry so much about the business through the close down until it was all right, the money is running low,
sure.
When are we going to be able to reopen,
right, right, sure, that has to be stressful as hell.
It was stressful as hell, and I had customers the whole time messaging me, you want to cut my hair on the side, and I didn't do any of that, man. It was no, I got to worry about, I wasn't, like I said, money isn't my first priority, so I didn't want it wasn't worth the risk of getting it and giving it to my
sure.
kids, and
sure.
and not that
Jesus, man.
Not that I'm all about rules and following the rules and stuff.
Dude, I feel you. Yep.
Yeah, but I do. That's I learned through a real rough past of my life that I don't have to like the rules. I got to follow them, and I got a lot of friends that would probably tell me I'm an asshole for saying that, but that's
Right.
honestly, that's the only way I could live. So it's
You
like,
have the
okay, so-
wisdom to know what rules are actually for your greater good and which ones aren't.
right, and I guess if a rule crosses a moral boundary or a like, then I'm like, well, fuck your rules,
Sure,
But
of course.
but yeah, like for the greater good and this and that, and it's like,
Can I ask you something?
yeah, man.
Talk about your band a little bit. How would you classify it?
It's like,
First off, it's
Oh.
a Kirkby Kiss.
right. Said
And-
Kirby. You say it Kirby Kiss. It's actually like the
Kirkby.
term for like headbutt, and
Oh, I love it.
in soccer, I guess, because our bass player's family is from the town of Kirkby, England, I guess.
Sure.
So we kind of like, she named it that, and
I love it.
but yeah, I'd say it's like, it's a mix of metal, punk, hardcore,
100%.
yeah.
So, what do you think that... I guess what I want to ask is, how did that culture influence the way you run your business and how you've handled it in the last year and a half?
I mean, I guess it definitely like influenced it greatly, because I grew up playing. I've been playing in bands since I'm like 13 years old. So, and in the punk and hardcore scene.
Sure.
And both of those scenes have a lot of different meanings to different people.
Absolutely.
But I like latched on to the more positive side of it, and community side of it, rather than the like fuck the government and like anarchy and like I'm out for myself and get wasted and shit like that. Even
Sure.
though I did a lot of that stuff when I was younger, but
Sure, of course.
so for the business, yeah, it was like people first, like that's like the people.
Wow.
That's I guess. I mean, I never really gave it too much thought, but it definitely, the relationship. So my life, the way I see my life, so everything I do, my business, my band, it's all about relationships, and
Sure.
and the quality of them. And I'm listening to everything you guys are talking about tonight, and I'm not like saying a lot. Not that I don't have thoughts on it and stuff, but I really do appreciate hearing your guys' perspectives and all that stuff. And that's kind of what I do. I do a lot of listening. As my job, that's a lot of listening.
I'll bet. Yeah, man, absolutely, dude. So I asked because for a lot of years, I do not doubt that you and I played on the same stage at some night. I used to be in a band called Twine.
Right. Yeah. Rob was mentioning it to me, and I'm trying to remember if I know that band.
And I just feel like that. So there's a lot of negatives I could take away from what I've learned from that scene, but a lot of positives I also learned.
Right.
About how to treat people and how to treat people who felt different. You know what I mean? So when I ask you, how that scene influenced your business, I looked at your business page on Facebook today, and I texted Rob immediately, and I was like, I already love this guy. I was like, because there's something about this where he shows he cares about people. And I get that, you know what I mean? And the issue is like when you come up through a scene like the hardcore scene or the punk scene, there's so much violence that you come up with too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you have to kind of work your way through the pit, if that makes sense, right? Like, you work your way through the mosh pit, and eventually you come out on top, standing on your feet, and you go, "What did I learn from all of this?"
Right.
And I see the way you run your business, and I was just impressed.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
Well, don't you see that? Don't you feel that being in part of that scene and being involved in the history of that scene, the being around people who were anti-governmental, did travel, experienced people that were at that time taboo, or just you go back to the early 90s and you talk about people who were vegans before vegan was an accepted thing.
Sure.
And animal liberation and crazy stuff like that, and you had a bunch of separation, but at the same time brotherhood and unity between the punk, hardcore, and kind of there was openness to it.
And later the hip hop scene, sure.
Yeah, of course, and a crossover in the late 90s.
100%.
There was a massive crossover behind that. But I find that, to your point and your question to that, that Do you feel that there's some benefit to being a business owner, having those experiences and having the ability to say, I've seen all those things, I've experienced them, I'm open-minded to that.
Sure.
You know, I've had conversations with people in that scene before, because to your
Continue, I'll
point,
be
Rick,
right
about
back.
yeah, to Rick's question about how you run a business and stuff like that during a pandemic and during a very split political spectrum, we've seen in the scene, still being involved in the scene, separation in the way politics have now made its way into the scene, and that's caused some issues for people. It's caused separation within a community that used to be very close and united over things, where really the only thing that separated the hardcore and punk or even the metal scene from people was whether or not you were a white supremacist or not. That was like the one thing that was like, fuck this. Like you had your own scene and you didn't cross over, and there was kind of separation behind that. And then there's the little genres and whatnot. And now it's gotten a little bit of political. And Natale, we've had conversations about this from time to time about, you know, like how politics have kind of seeped into that. And it's how do you feel that has affected your take both? Because knowing Natale and being close with him, he's kind of stepped away, and I could say this as a business owner and someone in the music scene and someone just on social media. Natale has really separated himself from politics, whereas anybody who knows me or anybody who knows anybody on this show, we're not afraid to tackle that shit, and we don't have a problem getting involved in that. Natale just rather not get himself mentally wrapped up in that. And as a business owner, where do you find that being a bit of an issue in terms of your thoughts, your perspectives, and how that creeps into your musical persona and your professional persona? You know, like where do you draw a line to where that's something that you're worried about as a business owner, and you're also worried about as a musician? Where do you stop yourself, and where do you just say, fuck it, I don't even give a shit anymore?
It's pretty easy, man. Where do I draw? Like, no, so like growing up in the punk and hardcore scene, politics have been involved in that the whole time. You know, that definitely, and like, but not to the extremes that it is now. Like, I think, but I learned acceptance of others and compassion and understanding and all that stuff in my life growing up through music, through those scenes and stuff. And through my other personal experiences, I learned that it's a lot better to listen, you know, especially when it's like so polarized of a thing. Like, and I have my own opinions. When I did step away vocally, but I definitely am not thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like and obviously at work, in my business, it kind of comes, and even with music, like in music now, I sing for a band, so I'm putting some of my thoughts and feelings out there a little bit more than when I was just playing guitar and doing backup vocals, you know. But so like if you read my lyrics, you're gonna get to understand my points of view a little bit more than maybe before, because it's obviously vocalized. But at the shop, for instance, man, I deal with all sides of the political spectrum and customer base, and I am pretty good at listening and engaging, even with difference of opinion, without it being an argument, to a point. When people cross certain boundaries, I vocalize, I'm not cool with that.
Sure.
You know,
You become a professional at that after a while.
Right, yeah, and to a point though. But I mean, there's been, I can count them on one hand, the amount of times where I had to be like, you know, not shut the fuck up, but sure. Like, yo, no, that's not okay. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty open about who I am, my sexuality, my, like, you know, my thoughts on all that stuff, my support of, you know, Black Lives Matter movement, which is not a bit, it doesn't go over very well in this area, like, I understand. With my customer base.
I hear you, dude.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm not trying to, like, but so like when it's the need for me to say, to put somebody to stop, like, hey, you might feel that way, like, and I let that, like, I believe, like, you're entitled to feel however you want, you know, but don't assume that I'm in agreement with you just
Sure.
because I'm a white male with a shaved head.
100%, absolutely,
yeah,
dude.
no.
I used to work in construction, and the amount of fucking old white guys I would meet who would say things and just think automatically that I agree with them was fucking astonishing, dude.
Right. My name is as Italian as it gets. I mean, my first name means Christmas in Italian, so then you got all that too, all that like Goomba shit, you know.
Sure.
But I was raised. They don't understand. My father was like an Italian hippie, so it's kind of like it's like a clusterfuck of, you know. It's
Oh
not
my
that.
God,
not what
I understand
people
completely.
think, you know.
My dad was so confusing to understand, dude. Because the people he valued most in his life were like people of color and people like but the way he talked was the opposite of that, and it was like, dude, where are you?
And yeah, right. And that stuff, that's why, like, when people like, it's a tough one. There's so much. I mean, I could talk probably forever, but
please,
to keep it into the business side of it, like I use that platform to one, make people feel open and welcome and accepted, that they can have their opinion, and then two, when the need arises to have a discussion that maybe can sway or not sway them to see a better way, or actually I learned a lot from them sometimes too, like even that relationship forms, and that's what I was talking about with business, and that's how I've kind of built my business based on that relationship. And yeah, like to Rob's thing of like how the coming up in the punk rock and the hardcore scene, how has that helped me? I think that has helped me to learn to be accepting of others, especially. Well, it's easy to accept somebody if they agree with you on whatever you're talking about. Sure. It's harder to accept people if they're disagreeing, especially if it's something that, like, you know, a hot topic, you know, or it's emotionally charged, you know. But I think, you know, one of my good points is that I've learned how to, like, have those discussions and keep it at a point where somebody can actually, we can have a discussion rather than an argument. You know, I don't do well with arguments, man. Like Rob talked about the violence growing up. Like I grew up, my life was, you know, it was great and then not so great, and then I became very violent. You know.
Oh my God, dude, I'm right there with you, dude. I love you to death.
Yeah. I'm not proud of that.
I'm right there with you, bro.
And I'm 43 years old now.
Right,
and,
dude,
like,
I'm 42. I was like, yo, I have a family, and all of a sudden everything was fucked up completely.
Right, and I got, you know, I had to learn how to, like, temper that temper,
sure.
You know, but it's still there. So I don't. Sure. My goal is always to not get to the point of, you know, violence. You know, like, and if I see it going there, I shut it down quick, and that's where Rob, I guess, I found that it's almost impossible to have discussions most of the time, especially on social media and stuff, because it just becomes some, like, real hostile environment. People aren't having discussions about it, so why am I going to fucking bother? Right. Like, this is awesome. Like, you guys are all talking, you're having discussions, different opinions, a lot of the same opinions, whatever, but to me, that's like helpful, and it's odd. Yeah, it's definitely not the norm, you know. Like, I think we try to critique. Like, I try to self-critique. Right. Like, I'll say something, I'll be like, yeah, but what I just said's fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, I think people need to do that.
If you get to a point where you can't, you know, it's. I think it's really hard for people just in general, naturally, to reflect on themselves and say, 100%. Well, I believe this, but let me go home and have a drink or sit down and smoke a joint or be alone in my own little circle. And some people find it through meditation. Some people find it through walking through the fucking woods, whatever it may be. But, like, those people are self-aware, you know, and then there's other people that just stick in the norm of just going through the motions and hearing some shit and regurgitating the same shit. And it's sad to a point, because you do bump into people where you're like, you're just reiterating something I just heard on Fox or CNN. Like, and I think that for people in the hardcore and punk scene, and the metal scene, and even for now, for a different generation, which I would include electronic music, and I would include techno, and I would include
I love it.
People who were into like the Electric Forest and shit like
Love
that.
it.
Like those people are modern day hippies. They
Yeah.
go to music festivals and they fuck the drugs and fuck the rampant sex that happens. I mean, I understand, but that's no different than the 1970s, like,
Or the 60s.
and those people came out of that understanding of black, brown, yellow people. It didn't fucking matter. Everybody was human. And music brings people together from that perspective. And for me, it's been very frustrating in the last, say, 6 to 8 months because a genre of music that I grew up in that for 25, and Natale and I, just for reference, Natale and I have been playing in bands since I was 20 years old, 2001. So we've been playing together for 20 years, and we've played in 4 different types of bands. We toured all over the fucking East Coast. We toured into the Midwest. Like we've been together for a long time, and he's like my brother, man. We talk about everything together. So like the shit that we don't share on Facebook, we have a lot of conversations. The shit we don't share on Instagram, the shit that's not part of our music, like it's become harder to express yourself. But the music scene that we're in now, and I said this last week, and it's become a little bit more. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with Natale lately because it's bothered me. Sure. It's bothered me greatly, and that is our band came to a kind of a halt, and Natale moved on and is starting this awesome fucking band, and at a time where bands are kind of looked at like you shouldn't be out there fucking doing shit. You shouldn't be like it's kind of fucking nuts. And what's really insane about it is that, yeah, sure, we understand the risk of doing what's going on, playing shows and having gatherings and all that. And the hardcore punk scene, along with the music scene in general, shut the fuck down. Not in a way that businesses did, like shut the fuck down. Sure. So like you either played and streamed from a bedroom and played with musical instruments from different people's bedrooms and created music and fucking then put it up online, or you defied shit. And now we're in an age where defiance, which was anti-governmental defiance, was anti-social defiance, is now equated to governmental defiance in a time of a pandemic. And it's really hard. I mean, now it's become a judgmental thing that politics are involved in, because you're either a sheep in a hardcore punk anti-governmental scene, or you're someone who actually cares for whatever the hardcore and punk scene has been preaching for 40 years and now isn't quite unity.
The thing that I don't understand about I've heard so many times, like, oh, this is what they want us to do, and, I'm not going to listen to the government. They're just the thing I don't get about it is, I think about it every time I read someone say that, is, okay, so what should the government do when there's an airborne virus that is killing people and overloading our medical system to the point where people that need surgeries for other reasons now have to cancel them, and doctors' offices are closing down? Like, if it's too much overreach for the government to say, hey, wear a mask, it'll save your life and the life of your neighbors and family, and hey, we did everything we could to get this vaccine that you guys were saying, you were waiting for is here, but now it's overreach if, we say you should get it. Like, I can't help but wonder, what is the appropriate thing then for a government to say that those people will go, that was the answer? Because if the appropriate thing is, if you breathe air in the same room with someone, you might die, but fuck it, just take your chances. Like, let's just forget about how fucking ableist that is, but let's just think about how this goes back to the whole big government is always evil thing. Because that's, like, this is that poison in another way, where it's like, well, what if they're telling you something that's going to save your life? Like, if you're so, like, hell bent on something that you're not even going to stop to think about whether or not it actually makes sense, then like, what the fuck can they say instead? Because any
you just
normal...
said the best point though, is that you have to stop to think about whether it makes sense or not. And I think that that's where a lot of the issues started coming. And I'm not taking any side with what I'm about to say, but I think from the conversations I've had with people, of most level-headed people, not the far thinkers or the non-thinkers, it's like,
Sure.
people just got really confused. Like, I think, like, generally, like, I'm only speaking from my experience from listening to other people, and then they started hearing whatever was being said from other people that they feel that they have some kind of underlying motivations, and then and I don't mean to cut you. I'm sorry I cut you off on that, but you touched a good thing. Like, the point being, like, you have to think for yourself. Like,
right,
does this make sense? And you guys talked a lot about it earlier with, like, caring about others, and the lack of in society, like it became such a crazy world. But then when people did have a comment, even it could start with a comment or a question about it, and then the, like, almost initial firing off of, like, pigeonholing them into, like, a certain category of people too. So, and then I understand that. I'm like, well, they get defensive, and then it just becomes like, and then nobody's talking any kind of sense, and nobody believes, hey, if we both wear masks, the chances of us spreading this thing, like, these people that are saying that are trying to figure out what the best way to handle this is. And then they're just like, well, fuck you can't tell me I gotta wear a mask. And it's like the most bizarre thing to me. It's like, there's so much to that,
Well, we've been duped. We've been duped so many times in this, especially in America. We've been duped so many times in the past.
Stones, we've talked on this show how many times we've been told things by our government, and the reason why we sort of sympathize with people who, respond ignorantly is because how many times can you be fucked over before you go, yeah, I don't believe anybody?
Don't you feel that wearing a mask is being fucked over? Like, I'm sorry.
No, I don't think that. I don't think that.
Like, I know that.
Exactly, but a mandatory vaccination might be, though. Like, people might, there's a lot of different people that have different feelings and thoughts about vaccinations.
I agree. I will say one thing, though. Vaccines are already mandatory. So, like, people are acting like this is new. Like, this is the first vaccine that's ever going to possibly be mandatory. And it's not. Like, you can't go to elementary school unless you have vaccine cards. And you can't go to some colleges without them.
You can't go to public. You can't go to public elementary school without.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
But to the overall point, though, of what was just made. To the overall point of the what Natale said, and along with what Sarah's saying, like that the idea of questioning, right? Questioning got to the point where asking questions and thinking that there's a possible alternative or a motive to things has now creeped into almost every daily facet of life, to where with a social media platform and a theory about
but here's the problem. The problem is that I'm getting to the point where they go, okay, you have all the, knowledge that you ever need at your fingertips, and then people don't use it. So it's like, yeah, I get people are getting things from all over the fucking place, but there's a certain ignorant level of questioning things where I have to question a person's sanity or ability to drive a car or tie their fucking shoelaces.
When you bring up the word fucking pandemic, and you, like I said last show, when you bring up the word pandemic, for people to question whether or not that's been manipulated by people and falsified at a time where multiple countries are involved, it's not just the United States. A lot of the United States focused on the fact that the United States had orchestrated this. And that's fucking scary and dumb.
That says some
Like,
shit about how people feel about their fucking country.
If anything, that said so much to me about people I know and the country that we live in. Like, the whole world is dealing with this.
I want to ask you guys an honest question. You know, when the information that came out that the case count was actually 8 times higher than the official test numbers in this country, that means that the amount of people that had contracted it, the amount of asymptomatic people, was 8 times higher than what the asymptomatic people that were even documented on the PCR tests. That when you realize that yes, it's still deadlier than the flu, but it's not 10 times deadlier than it's not in huge multiples deadlier than the flu, and you start to question, why are we putting people's livelihoods and things that they've worked towards their entire lives in jeopardy over something that is not nearly as
Why, Stones? Why?
As you know,
Why
thought.
do it?
And that whole thing was just kind of glazed over. That whole point was kind of glazed over.
Let me just make one statement, Stones, and I'm curious as to your opinion on this as being someone who's worked in the healthcare, area. So when we talk about, and this is what aggravates me as a historian when it comes to the comparison between the flu and how we've taken on to the flu. Influenza has been around for a millennia.
Mm-hmm.
This has been around for a year and a half.
Right. So you have this initial wave, just like you have had.
No. Wait, hold on. So influenza has been around for a millennia,
mm-hmm.
and is still relative. And we are still giving vaccinations yearly because it mutates.
Right.
So for people to say, okay, this is a problem, and then come July or August of last year, shit starts to mutate. And it's happening that rapidly. And people are still here going, I don't need a fucking vaccine. Okay, so you may not. I'm a person who hasn't had a flu vaccine in 11 fucking years.
Me too.
I don't go for flu because my immune system, for the most part, is terrible. But I haven't had the flu.
But
I suffer from respiratory shit. I suffer from allergies.
You need this, dude.
I know I should have, but I've had COVID. So now I'm at a point where's my immune system? However, when you compare the flu that's been around for a millennia and still has not been figured out, to completely just move on from something that's causing
it's not a move on thing. No. See, here's the thing, man.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about 80% of the
about him.
population.
Hear me out, man. So in human history, the likelihood of this thing mutating into something that is going to come back around and kick our ass again in a short period of time has not been shown to be a thing that has happened in the past.
Can I say something?
It's happening in
I call
India
bullshit.
right now. What are you talking about?
It's definitely happening in India.
It's already happening in India.
Right.
What do you mean?
Bro, the flu vaccine, the flu vaccine every year is a dart throw at whatever kind of flu it's going to combat. And when it doesn't, people fucking die of it. And the people that die of it, when you compare it to that,
let's use the flu as an example. There has been flu pandemics in the past that there has been mutations of the flu in the past that have knocked out large portions of the population. Correct? Yes or no? Okay. So that has happened, and then what happens? That same flu strain is in the community. History shows that when a strain, and it's a coronavirus, it's a cold virus. It's not exactly the flu, but it is also something that's been around for millennia. As you said, as stuff filters through the population and it does mutate into something where there is a large die-off in the population. Once that has ended, just like the flu pandemics in the past that have done the exact same thing,
Mhm.
or other types of viruses have done the same exact thing. Once that ends,
I'm going to stop you right there because this is where you stopped me. And I'm going to tell you exactly where you're going with this. And my question is, yeah, that happens. So the same thing I've asked of other people who go exactly the route you're going. Do we allow population to just wipe certain people out? Or in the year of 2021,
quote unquote certain people. Yeah,
Do
we know
we,
who's at the top of that
do
fucking
we
list.
Way to
attempt-
go, Stones.
do
No,
we
no.
attempt?
The
No,
whole
no,
point
stop.
of-
No, hold the fuck on. Hold the fuck on, because I'm very serious about this, and I have a question. That's how I combated this with somebody who has
Oh, go
children
for
in
it,
the
go for
school
it, go for
system.
it.
With people who have kids in the school system who say my kids don't want to wear masks, the kids don't fucking say shit. The parents are worried about kids wearing masks, and what it comes down to is, do we ultimately just let the old people and people with problems die off?
No.
And because they're there to die off, because they
missing-
That's
are.
what Stones wants.
No, you're misinterpreting the whole point
I'm
of the
not,
shutdown.
I'm not
That's what
misinterpreting
Stones
shit,
wants.
dude. That's exactly what the fuck it is.
Stones
dude.
wants everyone to
misinterpreting
die.
the whole purpose. You're misinterpreting the purpose of the shutdown. The shutdown was never to prevent the virus from spreading. The shutdown was only to prevent the hospital systems from being overwhelmed.
I'm
At no
not
point in
talking
time-
about shutdowns. I'm talking about your perspective on what the virus. Your
Hello?
statements were about how populations die when a pandemic
Be
hits,
careful,
and I
Rob.
completely understand that.
Careful,
But in
Rob.
2021, we have the technology and we have the ability. As I said last show,
Rob?
people fucking want a fucking vaccine.
Mhm.
It comes. People
Right.
don't want to take it. So
a lot of
if
people
that's
have
the
taken it.
case,
And a lot of people have taken it, and a lot of people have been infected with it. And there are plenty of data points that show that we are past that point. Those metrics in past pandemics, where the big wave. There's probably my suspicion is that there's going to be another small wave come this late fall into the winter.
but you telling me that hospitals are over fucking whelmed with
No,
people
I
just
don't
means
think
that
that
our
the
health
way-
system doesn't have enough fucking hospital room.
I
That's all that
I don't
means to me.
I don't think that the wave that's coming is going to jeopardize our medical infrastructure. I just think that there is another going to be a statistical wave. There's going to be numbers that are going to show a wave come the fall and winter again. I think that that's entirely reasonable to assume that that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to have nearly the peak that it had previously. I think and this is just based off of history of pandemics. It's
But
not.
you and I have seen eye to eye about this a lot of times, dude. And I completely understand that at the end of the day, this is population control on a natural fucking deal. But in a world of
No, it's getting
progress, in a world of progress with so much technological innovation and innovation, particularly in the medical field, to be so rejected by a large scale population in this country that could benefit people for the betterment in a place where everyone loves to preach, I made this donation to this organization and I support all this shit. And then when it comes down to brass tacks, to just go, well, they can fucking die off if they don't want to go to a restaurant. They could fucking die off if they don't. If they feel that they're unsafe, stay home.
No,
So at the end of the day, they're supposed to shut their lives off so everybody else can continue with their lives. And at that point,
Nice
you're
job,
combining
Stones.
nature versus what we need, what you think we need
I'm
to
not
do.
combining shit. What I'm telling you is us as a people have
So you're
created a way
saying
to
that
combat
nature dictates that we lived like we did during the bubonic plague and don't worry about the actual science progression that we have at our fingertips now? Because that's the better option. Do you know how many people died during that fucking plague and how many people would probably be dead now if there wasn't currently a vaccine? And not to mention the amount of people that are going to have chronic illnesses for the rest of their lives because they got COVID. Like, the flu is fucking different, dude. The flu is not a virus that came from an animal that human beings' bodies have no idea how to prepare for it because they're completely unprepared for it. If you get the flu,
That's
your
also
body
not-
recognizes it. Your
That's
body's
also
like,
not a
that's
Well, the flu actually came from an animal, but at the end of the day,
but now
that's not an accurate statement. Sorry, you're not being accurate with that statement. There is evidence in other nations that have had the same level of democracy and the same level of mask adoption as the United States, where their percentage of population that ended up getting the coronavirus was not even remotely close to ours. Japan.
Do they have 330 million people?
How many people
Japan
does
is
Japan
pretty
have?
sizable, but that's actually I want to ask all of you this question. How much do you think politics played a role into the attitudes that we're seeing around the pandemic?
100%.
Because
We blew it here. We totally fucking blew it.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with that.
And now the fact that you're broken down into categorizing yourself on which major corporation gave you the vaccine, that's telltale as to how this is all.
But I do want to it to me it's kind of indicative of this pandemic is in a lot of ways similar to other ones, but I think also very different in terms of information, in terms of acceptability of facts and science, and it kind of sucks because when the smallpox vaccine was released, churches across America were ringing bells, people were fucking celebrating in the streets, and this was kind of met with a collective meh, okay. I think the big factor in why people looked at this pandemic the way that they did was because of the president that we had in office, because of the attitudes that we had that were not that were even pre-President Trump, which is just a general distrust of science, a general distrust of facts.
But if we were to look forward, if we were to take a sample of this moment in time and we were to project out into the future, there is plenty of evidence that shows that society can, in a lot of ways restart, and it's because it's not going to be this massive inundation on the medical staffs as the potential threat as it once was. And
I mean, the reality,
all the measures that we had taken.
The reality is we can restart society again, but we're always going to have vulnerable populations, and to treat those populations as expendable because it's inconvenient to our own wants and desires.
I don't want to treat them as expendable, but
no, I understand. I'm not insinuating that you do.
That is what you want, Stones.
I don't think that's what you want.
But Kristen, to your point about smallpox, when the smallpox vaccine was put together, the scary part was that inoculations were not common, and when inoculations happened, people did die. And,
absolutely.
And the conversation then goes between you and Stones. Do you let the virus wipe out people that it's going to wipe out naturally, or do you inoculate?
That's my point. My point is saying I don't think that's what Stones is arguing for at all. But I think that we have the technology to avoid that. We have the ability to avoid that. And the fact that we're not jumping at every fucking opportunity to protect people who are vulnerable to this virus is really fucking sad.
Well, that's the humanitarian point of it.
That's that's a crime against humanity.
It absolutely is.
But it's been shrouded with politics at the end of the day.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
You're going to read.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Stones.
You're going to read about people in the next couple of years. You're going to read about people who received the vaccine, and you're going to start reading about people who die from this coronavirus, even though they received the vaccine.
It's gonna. I think more so. You're going to read about it like mesothelioma.
Fucking normal. Vaccines aren't 100% guaranteed you don't get the disease.
People's vulnerability changes over time.
Well, my point is a vaccine isn't 100%. So of course you're going to hear that people got
but
COVID
not only is the vaccine not 100%, people's vulnerability is also going to change over the course of their lives. So people are going to perish with these safety measures in check. Where's the line drawn where we say either we're disregarding the vulnerable population or we're trying to.
You tell me, Stones, where's the line drawn?
Yeah,
You tell me. You guys.
No, you tell me. You tell me. You tell me where's the line drawn.
I think we're at a point now where the society, at least in the United States, not in India at the moment, obviously, but in the United States, I think that we're in a good position. I think that there's going to be another small wave come the fall and the winter, and then that's
yeah, but
pretty much.
You told me the same thing in August of 2020.
You're not answering his question. His question was, where do you draw the line between what's too much of a precaution during a pandemic? Because,
I thought I made that clear when I said that as long as we're not overwhelming the medical community, because without having the hospitals to be able to take care of people, there is no society.
So
as
long as that's somehow able, so what if we just had bigger hospitals, but the same amount of people were in them? The medical system wasn't technically overwhelmed because for whatever reason there were more doctors in my hypothetical scenario.
You mean doctors who weren't just showing up for a paycheck to do a round in a hospital and go back to their private practice?
Then let it run its course. If our hospitals are safe, then let it rip.
Okay, well, that's just a complete fucking disregard for people like me who are immunocompromised. Let it run its course is what I've had to hear for a fucking year straight from people who are mulling over when they can go to a bar again. Well, I'm like, wow, if you breathe next to me,
doesn't surprise me, Stones.
You asked where the line was.
Yeah,
where
I
is
did,
it,
but
Stones?
making it sound like
Where's your
anything
line?
is too much. Where's
your
my line? Well,
yeah. I have one. Do you?
My line, for one thing, is first of all, so a lot of people seem to think that just asking to wear a mask is a line. I don't. I fucking wore masks before this pandemic out of necessity.
I agree with wearing masks. Where's the line? When can things open back up? Where's your line? For your sake, for your sake of being a vulnerable, being part of vulnerable.
For me personally, it's completely different than everyone else in this room because even though they had to throw it down our throats that the immunocompromised are the most vulnerable, we were also last in line for them to test if the vaccine actually fucking works on us at all. So I'm just sitting here kind of waiting my turn after all the able-bodied people got it so they can go have their summertime parties. Well, we're still waiting.
I've made a statement on where my line is with where I feel comfortable. If the hospitals were able to support the people coming in, then I say, where's your line? Where is it?
My line is that I don't think there should be large gatherings. I don't fucking think people should not be wearing masks in indoor places. I think children should have to wear masks in fucking tiny school classrooms when they go home to their grandmothers and shit and breathe all over them. I think
To what end? Forever?
A virus is a vector-borne illness. If there are no vectors, the virus is not there anymore. I don't believe that there's a big fucking problem with locking down people for a certain amount of time. As someone who's been bedridden for years in my life, I thought it was a big fucking whiny group of people crying about the inconvenience of having to stay home for a little while while they were totally fucking fine and alive and healthy at the time. I thought it was completely fucking short-sighted. I thought it was completely unempathetic to everyone, literally, including their own bodies.
I think that first 3 months, the first 3 months were mind-boggling to me. It was kind of like
the mask part, to have an entire population be able to adopt proper mask usage is not it's not a feasible thing. And I'm not
yes,
saying
it is. Yes, the fuck it is.
No, it isn't. No,
because
you see people around
in America. In America,
here it is. Now it is.
America,
dealing with people's fucking baby ass fucking approach to everything is.
And the masks that are worn will still provide vectors for the virus. So your line is that there needs to be
any bit of concern, though, Stones.
I'm asking Sarah. So your line is to wear masks until there's no more vectors for the virus to transmit. That's what your line is.
Now, if we're talking about in the beginning stages,
Well,
my
come
answer
on
is completely
If you
different
think of-
because in the beginning stages, there should have been a lockdown very early on, and the news should have been completely different, and it should have been unified because you can't have one fucking country where only some states are doing things and other states are doing nothing, yet they're crossing each other's borders and infecting the people over and fucking over again.
What
So,
about
like,
now?
now, I honestly, I don't know if my lines matter, Stones, because there's no unification on anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter because it's a fucking airborne pandemic. And if I want to lock myself down or whatever, but you don't, well, you're going to give it to someone else and they're going to give it to someone. So it doesn't end.
No, I'm
And-
just
and
saying.
so-
I'm just. You asked me where my line was. That's all I'm trying to get at here. You asked me where my line was. I told you guys
want me
my
to give
line.
you like data
And then-
and blueprints that I wrote out because I don't have them. But
then-
I don't think it's a
and-
fucking
yeah, but-
reach, and I don't think it's too much to ask to tell people not to go out to parties. I don't think if it's too much to ask. I don't think their life is ending because they can't fucking go out for a while. Live a disabled person's lives and then whine because your summer was fucking ruined or
I'm
inconvenient.
not lying because of that. I'm just saying
Not
that.
you, but that's
yeah.
what you hear every fucking day. Is like, oh man, they ruined my birthday. Oh man, they ruined. It's like, no, they didn't do anything. They're trying to keep you alive. That's a pretty good fucking birthday. You're not in the hospital dying of pneumonia. Like, I'm sorry, dude, but like, there's not a lot of perspective here. The idea of letting it run its course is honestly cruel. It's
No,
fucking
I'm not saying
cruel,
let
and
it-
there's
letting
no
it run
better
its
way of
course.
putting it.
I'm not saying letting it run its course without proper medical assistance. I'm not.
Fuck out of here, dude.
How? Why?
You have downplayed this since the fucking beginning, Stone.
Hey, listen.
Scott Fasnack, it's actually not a violation of HIPAA laws to ask for a vaccine card. That is
Guys.
not true.
Oh, I don't think
So-
it is.
Can I, I'm
No,
gonna,
I
I'm gonna,
was addressing the chat.
can I intervene real quick? We
Go
gotta
ahead, intervene.
we gotta shut down the shop over here. We can't keep the lights on. People are gonna think the business is open.
Jesus Christ, Nat.
So Natale
And
has
I spent
Natale-
$1,000
Natale has
in PPE in the beginning of this, Rick. Rick, I spent $1,000 in personal protection equipment in the beginning of this pandemic. For you to make the statement that I downplayed this since the beginning
No,
is
no.
outrageous.
Your optimism has downplayed it, but even right now, man, you're doing exactly the same thing. You're like, how bad can it get?
No, that's bullshit.
And let me tell you something, man. Dude, I don't hate
you.
you for it, Stones. I'm not mad at you about it. I
thought we were
appreciate
at
your fucking
3%.
optimism, man. But you've been
thought we were at
optimistic for a long time.
I thought we were at a 3% mortality rate when this
I
thing
know
first-
all your fucking statistics, your Stone statistics.
listen.
That's
We
what they
gotta
were
shut
saying.
down.
All right,
We gotta shut
listen,
down the business
Nat,
over here. So
I want you to do me a
listen,
favor, Nat.
Natale, tell us what's going on with the fucking band.
Yes,
And let's-
to where can we
let's
find
talk
you?
about
What's going on?
I don't want to talk about that shit after all this. This shit's heated, man. I don't want to.
Ah,
No, I'm
fuck
just kidding.
that. No, man. What's going on?
No, really. What's going on with the band and what would you ask me?
Yes, please. What's going on with the
Yeah.
band? Where can people find you? What's the deal?
Band's name's Kirkby Kiss. You said that. It's on Instagram, Kirkby_Kiss. We're playing a show July 24th, outdoor show in Forked River. We just put out a first EP, and then that's going to be our release of our second EP. Yeah, we got some cool things happening, and we've only been together for like 6-7 months or something like that, so pretty pumped on it. And yeah, if you're into that kind of music and stuff, you can find, come see us play. You can look online and come get a haircut if you want to come get a haircut. I don't like shameless self-promotion, but what? Yeah.
So
But
there's
yeah.
something that
Best
we.
haircut in fucking town,
If you
bro.
want to switch over to shameful self-promotion, you can go with that.
Yes. Shameful.
So
It is shameful.
They played a show that we went to a couple about a month ago, and it was everybody's taking precautions. It was a good show. Everybody was there to fucking hang out, and the music that this band is putting out, dude. I played with this guy for 20 years, and the people that are in this band we've been friends with for a long period of time, and it's something special. It's good. It's good music, man.
I know the feeling.
it thrashes up. It's good time, and people of all different genres can enjoy it. So it's just good to have Natale on the show. And
Natale, I'm going to ask you something. We reserved something for this show for guests called The Final Word. So imagine for a moment.
It's like Jerry Springer's The Final Word.
Right.
Final Word.
So good, dude. Imagine for a second that there was a meteorite coming toward Earth, and this was the end. And you had of all people, right? You had the chance to give a message to everybody in the world. What would your message be?
Oh, shit. That's heavy, man. I mean, everybody's going to be dead, so what's there to say? I love you.
And maybe that's the most important thing, man.
Yeah. What's that?
Maybe that's the most important thing. What happens if that same meteorite, it goes a little bit to the left or the right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. Be good to be cool to one another, man. That's it. That's some hippie shit right there. I guess I get that from my dad.
No, you don't, man. You don't, man. Because the hippie and the hippie, hardcore, and punk scene, there's a lot of fucking crossovers there ideologically.
Oh, absolutely, man.
You know what I mean? And more than people give credit to. And the hip hop scene, too, everywhere, dude.
Yeah, hip hop. Yep, absolutely.
One thing I read in your
just like punk.
One thing I read in your profile tonight that I loved, and I messaged Rob immediately about it, was that you talked about spreading positivity.
Yep.
Through everything you do, man. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I mean, that's the way to be. I think, disagree, but be positive, just remember what's most important,
Sure.
And I think when people do that, that's when you find solutions. Otherwise, we're just sitting here banging our heads against the walls, and that gets us nowhere.
Right. Exactly. This gets us nowhere.
Yeah,
well, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me on. It was cool.
Appreciate you so much, man. Appreciate everybody who watched tonight and shared tonight. And
Rick, hopefully, once I can get to one of their practices, we can live stream them and have the band play as part of the exit to a show or something like that.
So cool. That'd be fucking dope, dude. Fucking dope. All right, listen, thank you so much, Natale, for being here tonight. Thank you, so much to everybody who watched tonight, shared tonight, and commented tonight. And, thank you to Stones, even though he's, it's been a it's been a really great night. Everybody, go fucking get more fucked up and go pass out, man. Go have a good time. Go have a good time. Go have a good time. We're doing it. Holler.
It's Friday night.
Everybody run over to the barbershop real quick and knock on the door and tell them the lights are still on and you need a haircut.
Drunk people from up the street are probably going to be knocking anytime soon. So.
Oh, boy.
You're listening to us. And the face.
Here is Rally, North Carolina.
All right.
Fed up after his house has been hit by a car for the 6th time.
Okay.
At what point do you finally put up a steel wall on that particular side of your house? Like after when the 4th car hit, I'd be like, "Oh, come on
Or at
already."
least make a wall out of all the smashed cars.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah,
pile
right.
them up as a barrier.
Or don't build your house in the middle of the road.
Yeah, fucking idiot. Yeah. So yeah, for the 6th, I mean, imagine like every night you sit down to watch Friends or How I Met Your Mother, and you're just like, is tonight the night?
And
like,
the car just crashes into your living room.
and you're like, "Oh, fuck again."
Nobody's coming to visit.
Yeah, no one is ever gonna have dinner at your fucking place ever, dude.
Just don't sit right there.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Just stay on the 2nd floor.
This story I feel like you guys are gonna be a little blown away by. Trucker found love by texting numbers scrawled on a toilet wall offering a good shag.
A good shag. My goodness.
Yeah. So this guy sat down, I guess, to take a dump at a truck stop. He took a chance on love, really.
Truck dumps.
Yeah, he took a truck dump. He took a chance on love.
So that's an actual thing? People still do that?
I guess
for a good
people
time
still
call?
do that. Yeah, right. It's still a thing because he was able to text the number.
That's crazy.
And she says that what she tells family members and stuff is that she got a text by accident. But I guess now it's all out in the open. You know what I mean?
So
She
what
blew
happened?
somebody
Was
well.
he like, hey, is this true? Like,
yeah, right. Like, what do you? How
Are
do you
gonna
introduce
show me
yourself?
a good time?
Yeah. Hey, I'm sitting on his toilet.
like, how do
it
you
says
go
I weigh
from
180
one
pounds.
to the other? How do you get from like accidental or
Yeah, right.
or weird creeper?
Because you're definitely
to,
taking a
let's-
dump.
We're in love now.
Let me just tell you, you're taking a dump at this point, too.
and there's a way station
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah, right. And you're like, yeah, hi, I'm at a truck stop. I'm taking a big shit. It's probably the best one of the year.
It's a trucker dump, too.
And I'm taking a chance.
Right.
A trucker dump is a lot of Red Bull beef jerky.
Speed.
A lot of no-dose.
Right.
No-dose is definitely legal speed.
Yes.
And what's that drink we used to drink back in the day that was like fuck, what was it called? Jolt Cola. Yeah, right. We used to drink Jolt Cola back in the day. That was the original Red Bull. Was Jolt fucking
And wasn't
Cola.
it like it didn't have any more caffeine than coffee? Like it was
Right,
basically
that
the
was
exact
the
same
claim.
thing.
That was the claim, except when you drank it, you became all coked up and started seeing colors, and you're like, oh, all right, this is definitely not like fucking coffee. Yeah,
Just
no
scaling
doubt.
the side of a building.
Yeah, right.
It's so good. It didn't taste great though. It always tasted flat. To me.
Yeah, it was gross. It was like Tab.
Yeah.
with like an extra jolt.
Yeah.
so to speak.
So to speak.
Yeah,
An extra lightning bolt.
yeah. Sarah, what you got next?
Let's see.
I could put one out there if you're looking. Yeah.
I guess.
All right.
I don't know. I have them. I mean, I'm looking right at them.
I
I'm just
don't
like,
know if
I'll
you
talk
guys
about
know this. Russia. I know, Sarah. You got the Russian ladies. Okay.
I have no shame.
No shame. There is a Russian mosquito festival. The more bites, the better.
Wow.
This is the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, just a bunch of people standing out there getting Zika and Lyme disease.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
In a fucking field. And this lady was awarded a ceramic trophy for 43 bites.
So you don't get them. You show up with the bites, or you get bitten while you're there.
Well, at this weekend's Russian Mosquito Festival
let
in the
me know.
town of Bereznika, Niki.
Sure.
It sounds like Klingon. 9-year-old Irina, 9-year-old
Wow.
Irina Ilyakunina won the. You guys are never going to believe this. She won the quote unquote tastiest girl category.
Great.
With 43 bites.
She got sweet blood.
Yeah, to show for going berry picking in the forest with her mother.
This sounds like the beginning of a fucked up fairy tale.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like child abuse to me. Honey, look, you're going to win that trophy this year, whether you fucking like it or not. Now strip down and walk through the field slowly.
You're
And
gonna get
pick
your
berries.
Yeah.
Get your ceramic trophy and bring it home.
Yeah, we want to put
Like,
this up
how
for the
much
whole
is that
family.
fucking thing worth? They
Yeah.
got it at, like, the Russian Dollar General.
Yeah, right. And then they etched in the award name like themselves with like a
No,
piece of
they
metal.
just took a label maker and then stuck the tape. It's like that ugly blue.
Yeah. Now they said that they've seen a little bit of a fall off for the mosquito festival because of the rising
Yeah,
Zika
I
virus.
can't believe why.
And the
Wow.
Zika virus, like the Zika virus is a little bit bullshit. It's a little bit bullshit. Like when Lyme disease is traveling
Oh,
at
well,
a million
yeah, sure.
people a year, and the Zika virus, lives in your sperm for 6 months. You might have a pinheaded kid. You might not have a pinheaded
Right.
kid. Whatever. Just don't have. First of all, you shouldn't be having kids anyway. The world's falling apart. We're cascading into
That's
fucking
true.
chaos, economic destruction, and lunatics are running the planet. Probably a bad idea anyway.
Just throw more kids at it.
Yeah. Let's just have more. Fuck it. Let's just keep piling them on. Earth is really loving this.
I wish we could stop.
I wish we. Well, hopefully the mosquito festival is here to slow it down.
And if anything's gonna do it, it's the goddamn mosquito festival.
It's a
It's
goddamn
the Russian mosquitoes.
Yeah. It's the fucking mosquito festival mixer. Is what it is. Yeah.
Mosquito mixer.
I can't believe you have to. That's yeah. I don't know. I think at first I pictured you go there to get bitten. Like
Yeah.
they just had
That's what I
like
did, yeah.
swarms of mosquitoes, and you just stand there and get
Yeah, and you all
eaten
stand
alive.
around and you're like, come on, which one of the mosquitoes like best? Hey, everybody, I'm the most popular one. You
But
can't even see me under all these
it
mosquitoes.
implies that they do stuff like weird home remedies that they think is going to attract more. Like
Right,
they
yeah, yeah.
probably
Right.
eat certain foods.
Yeah, right.
You know, like-
it's like when I had a staph infection under my arm once, and my ridiculously stupid stepmother thought that putting cabbage under my arm was going to cure me of the, meanwhile my body's being ravaged.
She's also Russian.
She was also Russian,
And it's
so
cabbage.
You're lucky
So there
she
you go.
didn't like take out a jar of mosquitoes.
exactly. So
Like,
this is a little kismet here. It's sort of,
they'll
you
just suck
borscht
the
and,
infection right out.
yeah, I'm eating borscht like a motherfucker and like covered in mosquitoes. Are you sure this is gonna work?
You're
Eat
gonna
your
win the
Pete's, shut
ceramic
up.
prize.
Ah,
Yes,
fuck
it's
yeah.
gonna work.
The Prince of Mosquitoes.
Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure our paths
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah, they call me the mosquito prince.
look at all of
Prinsky.
my ceramic prizes.
Yeah, look at my ceramic glass case.
It is full of ceramics.
I'm so itchy. I just want to fucking blow my brains out.
Just like little drops of blood. Like I can't
Like how
stop.
itchy? Like I get one, and just I'm scabbed over in a day. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm just
right.
scratching at it all
Dude,
day.
I gotta be honest with you. I hate the outdoors.
Oh my
I
God.
can't
I
say
hate
when
nature.
people are like, "I'm gonna go camping." I'm like, "Wait, why? What are
I've
you
never
doing?"
been camping.
Dude,
in my
you're not
entire
missing
life.
anything. The last time I went camping, I had a tick on my cock. I was like, "What? I don't need this drama." Now I gotta fight with my doctor for antibiotics. A
That's
fucking
where
nightmare.
they want to go for, dude. They're gonna go for
Yo, one of the cats
junk.
took a big shit and it stinks. Holy fuck. Whew.
God, it's the worst.
Oh my god. So go ahead, Sarah. What do you got next?
Well, all of my information is not responding at the moment because it won't come
Okay.
up. So I have just my notes to go off of.
Okay.
And by the way, I think one day that my notes for the show should go somewhere because when you
shot
don't
into
understand
space.
what they're linked to, it's like this is just a short porn and brains, butt plug, control anywhere, porn parodies, man, sex with goat, Swedes, less sex, naked twister mom, celebrity vaginas, police kill birds, green foam art condoms.
So by reading that, can you just remember what the story is?
Yeah, I can remember what a lot of these are.
That's insane.
Well, I,
I
need
wish
to,
I had that talent.
I need to have, the talent of knowing the most useless, fucking terrible
what's the
information
foam,
ever.
What's the green foam condom?
So no, those are two different things:
Oh.
green foam and art condoms.
Oh,
I
thought they were
thought it was
together,
all
yeah.
one green foam.
they might
art
as
condom.
well be.
With a foam condom, you've only got so much time to get out
Yeah.
after you blow a load.
They have these things now. I forgot what they're called. They're like instead. We talked about the whole Diva Cup thing
Yes.
a while ago
Right,
on
yeah,
Ice
yeah.
in the Face. Well, there's another thing now for periods. It's not like the cup because the cup is sort of, down lower.
Sure.
I guess.
Yeah.
This is something that goes like way up in you, and
And siphons everything
but this
off.
is the weird part. You can have sex with it because
'Cause
of
it's so
where
far-
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's so far up inside.
So
Not even
you
the tongue can reach
basically-
it.
So you have like a fucking cork, and then you're getting corked. Like
Yeah.
Oh wow.
it just seems so
It's
You're doubling up your corking.
It's going like right to the
anti-biological.
source.
Yeah.
It's like,
it
doesn't have a
just
chance of getting
seems
out.
like something that your body would protest to.
Sure. So you're cutting it
Yes.
off at the pass, and then you're cutting it off at the gate, basically. So, and this is to prevent pregnancy, or
Well,
is it for
no.
style?
prevent bleeding.
No. This isn't to pretend. This is just like this instead of like a tampon or whatever the fuck.
Okay. All right.
But
sure.
it has to
They're
come out
saying
at some
like you
point.
can have sex while it's in too. You don't have
Let
to.
me tell you something. The amount of stories that I read, especially researching stories for this show, the amount of women who stick tampons up their pussy and then forget that they're there and get sick from it is a little mind-boggling. So if you're putting something so deep inside
Yeah.
that you don't even have to think of it, you set it and
You just
forget
forget
it
that
and
it's
walk
there.
away, it just seems to me like you're set up for disaster.
Mildly dangerous.
Like toxic shock syndrome. What is it called? Not toxic shock. Is it
It
toxic
is,
shock?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, toxic shock syndrome seems like a definite with something that
Because with something like that, it has to come out at some point.
The way that this thing works, they said that it actually lowers your risk of toxic shock syndrome.
Let me tell you something.
I think it lowers it.
From the stuff
Don't
I read,
quote me on that part.
From the stuff I read, I feel like tampons should have bells on the string because the string is obviously not enough. Just to remind you, it's there.
Can think of how annoying it would be if you were at the grocery store and everyone with a tampon had a bell attached to it.
Imagine how much more aware you'd be of who to stay away from.
All of them.
If you just heard a bunch of jingling.
It doesn't matter if they're jingling.
Just stay away from everyone.
It's like,
yes.
Hey, I see you're buying some chicken McNuggets there. How's it going? She turns around. She's like, bling, bling, bling. You're like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, whoa. Yeah, it turns around the demon eyes, and you're like, no thanks. No thanks. So, in India, they fly kites for their Independence Day.
Okay.
That's
nice.
And one thing that they've began selling are kite strings that are covered in pieces of glass, so that if your line gets crossed with someone else's kite string, it slices right through.
Nice.
But the problem this year is that this kite string slit the throats of 3 people.
Jesus Christ.
And killed them.
What a happy way to die.
Killed by a kite
Well,
string.
some dude was on his motorbike.
It's almost poetic.
And he was driving through Delhi, and he just caught a kite string in the throat, and it sliced his throat, and he fucking died.
And swooped him right away.
And then people are like, and no arrests have been made. I'm like, yeah, well, it's India. They're not really arresting anybody for shit like that. You know what I mean? They arrest you for weird shit there.
Well, I mean, they can't exactly prove that they meant to cut a guy's head off.
Right. I mean, if I can buy it.
It was an unintended consequence.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm just trying to be the best kite
friendly
flyer.
On the bottom of the kite package, it says unintended consequences may include beheadings.
Yeah, may include jugular veins.
That reminds me, I don't know why I remember this, but there was a Punisher comic that I read when I was a kid, and the Punisher was flying a kite in Central Park that had the Punisher logo on it. Black kite, Punisher logo.
That's not discreet.
Right. But it had spikes hanging out of the end of it. And I think the idea was that he was knocking other kites out of the sky.
Okay.
So I wonder if they got the idea from that Punisher comic.
I wonder too.
It's probably
knocking other kites out of the sky. You can't get more badass than that.
Yeah, right.
It was probably like the mafia that killed his family. They were also flying kites.
Fuck your kites.
They're like, not only do we kill people, but we fly kites like motherfuckers. And you're like, fuck you, and I'm going to beat you, and you killed my whole family. I'm going to beat you in this kite flying competition.
And I'm going to get the ceramic prize.
Yeah, you son of a bitch bastard.
I'm going to be the winner.
Yeah.
Chicken dinner.
Woman robbed, assaulted with potatoes.
Good.
There's a lot of food-related assaults lately.
Well, you know what it is it's not just...
It's handy.
We're running out of weapons.
Sometimes I read things and I just go,
I think we're just getting bored with weapons.
True. We need a challenge.
Exactly, because guns are so passé.
Didn't we already have a conversation on Ice in the Face where you bet someone that you could kill with nothing but a potato?
Yeah, I said I could kill somebody with a sharpened potato. Yeah, that was on the Chill Side podcast. I said that because the question was if you were in a zombie apocalypse. I said just give me a potato to sharpen and I'll kill people with that. Because once the potato dries out, it should be pretty stabby.
Once the zombies dry out, it's pretty easy to get rid of them, too.
I feel like you can just rip a zombie head off as long as you don't get bits.
If you have a potato, you just throw it and it goes right into their brain and out the other end.
They're brittle.
They're all falling apart. They're not robust.
It depends on how far into the death cycle they've been. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Because by the end, they're really falling apart.
I would like to read to you just a few lines of the 911 dispatch and the person in the story.
Okay.
It's just a few lines. 911 dispatcher. Did they have weapons? Did they display a gun or a knife or anything?
Or a potato?
Caller. Other than the potatoes, did they have any weapons like a gun or a knife?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, caller. They took my potatoes and threw them at me. They were my bag of potatoes from Save-A-Lot. And then the 911 dispatcher said, other than potatoes, did they have anything like a gun or a knife? And the caller said, no, but those potatoes hurt. I read that and it just made me chortle. I was like, well, I'm sorry you got robbed and you got beaten up by your own potatoes.
It makes me want to go to the farmer's market and just start chucking potatoes at people.
Yeah, it seems like you can really get
You
a
can
leg
clean
up
house.
in life.
Yep.
If you just, commit
I
potato
think
assault.
that if I had to assault someone with something from the grocery store, potatoes would be. I mean, if we're all staying in the produce section, potatoes probably the best option you got, unless you're getting a jackfruit. But good luck
What's
picking
what's
that
that
up over
giant
your
one
head.
with the spikes all over
Jackfruit?
it? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
It's like meat almost when you cut it. Yeah,
Right. You could like brain someone with that.
But I feel like apples.
But you have to be able to lift it over your head too.
and pick it up.
Apples could do a job.
Yeah, if you, whipped an apple at someone really hard.
You could give them a black eye with that fucking thing. You could knock them clean off their feet and run away with their groceries. No doubt. Let's see. What's next here? Man arrested after allegedly trying to have sex with a van.
Allegedly.
Well, he was 35 years old. And they came upon him, and he was stripped down to his skivvies. His dick was out the front, and he was trying to jam his cock in the
tailpipe?
No, not the tailpipe. He was trying to jam it through the grate in the front.
That's wow.
He was like, honey, we've done it that way so many times.
Yeah.
I'm getting bored with it. Like, we have to try something new.
I need a new hole.
to flatten my dick.
That was like his version of birthday anal.
Get to fuck this van.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the night that I get to renew my registration. You know what that means?
Yeah.
But only after it's been idling for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I really need it to be warm.
I like it nice and hot. I want my dickhead to
There's
nearly
a
melt off.
documentary about people that.
Fuck cars.
Yeah.
The fuck car for real?
Yeah.
That
It's
are,
an actual
that are like
thing,
so
yeah.
in love with their car that
Yeah.
they basically have sex with
I
it.
just want to make a plea to the human community that if you
There
have
is no human community.
If you have enough passion to go out and fuck cars so much that they make a documentary about it, can you please shift your passion to, like, I don't know, curing cancer or
Right.
space exploration? Like,
well, like they would.
inventing an actually edible baby powder.
Yeah, or an actually
our one true dream.
or an actually fuckable car, like a car with an organic vagina growing
With
on
a
it.
giant vagina.
Yeah.
But also there's car, like I feel like yesterday I saw a picture of a car that just had like a
The
giant
perfect vagina.
yeah.
Yeah, why would anybody
It
fuck
was
a dirty old
it was
van?
just yesterday.
It was
I like vans because I like heavy set cars.
right. No, it was a car that had like a spray, a painted picture of like an anime girl on the hood.
Okay.
And a dude just posing like, "What up?" Like just like throwing up deuces like in front of it. Like, this is my car. Like, I drive around with this fucking thing in front of it.
Sure. Some
And
dudes can only.
sometimes I also fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if she'll let me.
Mind your own business.
Could you imagine being like so awful in life that even your fantasy women reject you?
Yeah. You dream about girls telling you no.
The car just drives away from you on its own.
The emergency brake turns off and it's just like rolling down the hill. Like, no, thank you, fucking pervert.
Let's see. So, okay. This story is not necessarily like to me it sounded funny at first, and then after thinking about it, it wasn't.
It got
This is
sad.
the story. It's not really the story itself that gets me. It's the first line written by ABC News that gets me.
All right.
Okay. The story is overdue pregnant woman wake surfs to help induce labor.
Wake
surfs.
So she's out surfing. I guess she's like hooked to the back of a truck, not a truck,
A trolley?
a speedboat or whatever, and she's on and she's really doing it. She's pregnant as shit, and she's just on the surfboard.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself at first, I was like, God, that's because pregnancy's gross. I was like, that's disgusting. And then I was like, well, at the same time, if I had some parasite in me that needed to come out,
you would do anything.
I would do anything to
Right.
get it out. You know what I mean? And she said she had fun and she felt good. And I'm like, okay, well, good for you.
Right.
But then it's the first line when you consider that this is mainstream press and that they would write this.
This is gonna go bad. I just know
you
it.
just wait for this, John. I picked this for you.
Thanks. I know this is right up your alley.
This is what it says. Every word is terrible. This adventurous mama has no problem hanging 10 at 40 weeks pregnant.
You know that it was
Gross.
like some like self-congratulating female who sat there
Yeah.
writing this stupid
Like, hold
article.
on. I got
I
it.
feel so.
Awesome talk, awesome talk. We got some awesome talk today. Awesome talk, oh, awesome talk. You're like the way we talk. It's awesome, awesome talk, oh, awesome talk. You like the way we awesome talk. It's awesome talk, fucking awesome talk. You like the way we talk. It's fucking awesome. Ooh.